Chapter 1789. This is the territory of Snow Valley. If you're a backpacker or an explorer, please stop. The person looked weak, but there was an indescribable sense of authority in his voice. The weirdest thing was that this person was only wearing a white shirt in this snowy place, but he didn't seem to be cold at all. This person, is he a disciple of Snow Valley? Meng Yao was sure of his identity after hearing what the person said. She let out a sigh of relief and opened the window, but as soon as the window was opened, a gust of cold wind blew into their faces. Both Meng Yao and Tang Yin couldn't help but shiver. Shu, on the other hand, seemed to be very relaxed. Perhaps it had something to do with the big stove she was hugging. No, close the window, I'll go down and talk to him. Tang Yin saw that Meng Yao was shivering in the cold and said, although they had brought long johns in the car, they didn't expect Snow Valley to be this cold. Mo Kong-won and Old Lin also neglected this point, so Meng Yao couldn't help but complain when they arrived at this place. Can you go? Meng Yao was a little worried. It's fine. Although I'm cold, I can withstand it more than you guys. Tang Yin opened the door and got off the car. She respectfully greeted the patrolling disciple. Hello, we are heading to the Snowy Valley. Could you please lead the way for us? To the Snow Valley? The patrolling disciple was slightly stunned. He glanced at Tang Yin, but did not see anything special about her. As an ancient sect, Snow Valley naturally had some dealings with other sects. But no matter how he looked at Tang Yin, she did not look like a cultivator, let alone a disciple of other sections. We want to buy some treasures. Tang Yin saw that the patrolling disciple was confused, so she directly told him what they wanted. So you're here to buy treasures. The patrolling disciple realized. Every ancient sect had their own way of earning money. Ice Palace earned money through trials. Sky Elixir sect earned money through selling pills. And Snow Valley earned money through selling treasures. Because of the geographical environment of the Snow Valley, in the same month of the year, different locations nearby could produce different climates and temperatures. Under these climates and temperatures, many spiritual herbs could be grown. Even the Heavenly Elixir sect was one of the customers of the Snow Valley. So when Tang Yin said her intention, the patrolling disciple didn't doubt it at all. Those who could find this place to buy treasures were usually recommended by other sects or families with similar status. Holy Church, stay here and don't move. I need to return to the sect and report to the elder on duty, said the patrolling disciple. Okay, thank you, Tang Yin said gratefully. She didn't think that things would go so smoothly. After all, when Linny talked about the path to the Ice Palace, it was so difficult, and they had to participate in trials. But in the Snow Valley, buying treasures seemed to be a matter of course. After the patrolling disciple finished speaking, he casually threw a tag on the car next to Tang Yin and disappeared into the snow. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. Tang Yin looked at the tag on the car strangely. On the tag, she saw Patrolling Disciple 15, waiting to report, and on the tag, there was a symbol that she didn't understand that looked like a snowy mountain, but after seeing these words, Tang Yin could roughly guess the meaning behind it. Other than that person, there must be other patrolling disciples, and the other patrolling disciples wouldn't ask anything after seeing this tag. Thinking of this, Tang Yin returned to the car and patiently waited for the news. Not long after, a disciple of the Snow Valley who was dressed exactly the same as the previous disciple appeared beside the carriage. However, after seeing the tag on the carriage, he quietly left without saying a word. It seemed that this was a long-standing rule. The patrolling disciple 15 quickly returned to the Snow Valley, and when he was about to see the elder on duty, he was told by other disciples that the Valley Master had gathered all the elders for a meeting in the meeting hall. The elder on duty had also gone, and if he wanted to see the elder on duty, he could only wait at the door of the meeting hall. The patrolling disciple 15 knew the rules and didn't dare to disturb. He came to the door of the meeting hall and stood respectfully at the side, waiting for the elder on duty. There were other disciples here who also had matters to discuss with the elder on duty. The other elders were also waiting quietly like him. At this time, in the meeting hall, there were 5 people of different ages sitting. Some looked very young, some looked old. Sitting in the main seat was a young woman in her 20s, and beside her was an old woman who looked to be in her 70s or 80s. Of these two, the young one was the current Valley Master of the Snow Valley, Sydney, and the old woman beside her was the Grand Elder of the Snow Valley. The other two men and one woman were the 3 Heaven-class Elders of the Snow Valley. Sydney was 28 this year and had just broken through to Heaven class not long ago. As for the other Elders, the strongest one was only in the middle stage of Heaven class. Looking at the entire Snow Valley, other than the Grand Elder who was at the peak of the late stage of Heaven class, no one else had reached this level. This was also the thing that the Snow Valley was most worried about. As one of the 4 great ancient sects, the Snow Valley had once been glorious and prosperous. However, with the departure of the previous Valley Master, it began to decline. The 2 great water cultivation sects that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Ice Palace had become a bit lacking in manpower. What worried the Snow Valley most was that the Ice Palace had actually found an inheritor, and it was said that the inheritor had a rare ice physique. This made the Snow Valley feel an unprecedented pressure. Although the Snow Valley was once one of the 4 great sects, but the Heaven class meeting focused on current strength, not how glorious one was in the past. Therefore, finding an inheritor with a suitable physique became the most important thing for the Snow Valley. Of course, it wasn't just the Snow Valley. All the ancient sects that practiced the 5-element cultivation were all looking for their inheritors, because only an inheritor could open the Heaven class island and let the peak of the late stage of Heaven class to cross that barrier. The Ice Palace and the Snow Valley were both water element sections. Of course, although the Snow Valley was called the Snow Valley, what they cultivated was a mist element mental cultivation method. And the inheritor of the water element, the 3 inheritors of mist, water, and ice, had to be present in order to fulfill the conditions to activate the water element. Sydney's physique could only be said to be an ordinary yin physique. Although this physique was not considered good, it was already the best physique in the Snow Valley. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to break through to Heaven class at the age of 28. For a Heaven class, this age was already very heaven-defying. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1790. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, apart from Rock Candy, who had a fake Ice Heart Jade Bone physique, anyone who could reach Heaven rank in their 20s was already a genius among geniuses. Although Ice Palace's Xiaoqing looked very young, it was only because she had used some kind of pill to maintain her youthful appearance. Sanctuary, but Sydney looked even younger. At least from her appearance, she didn't look much older than Rock Candy. Moreover, 10 years wasn't much of a difference to Heaven rank experts who could extend their lifespan. But Sydney still felt a little conflicted. At the thought of Rock Candy, Xuel Li and the Supreme Elder were filled with a deep sense of jealousy. Rock Candy's physique was already good enough. If she could use an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, then she could perfectly receive the inheritance. But before the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill was refined, the news that Ice Palace had found an cold physique inheritor came. This made Xue Gu's eyes red with jealousy. Why did Ice Palace get all the good stuff? So, these days, the Grand Elder felt like menopause was coming again. Every time he thought of this, he would gather the elders in the sect to discuss countermeasures. But no matter how they discussed, the final result was the same. The person with the best physique in Xue Gu was Sydney, but to use this physique to understand the inheritance, that was basically impossible. Even if she used the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, there was no guarantee that it would be able to change her physique. Grand Elder, Valley Master, I have an idea. I wonder if it will work. The one who spoke was a Heaven rank Elder of Xue Gu, surnamed Zhang. Sanctuary, oh, what do you think? The Grand Elder's eyes lit up as he quickly asked, if we, Xue Gu, refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill and give it a Palace Master Rock Candy, would she give a cold physique inheritor to us? Elder Zhang said. This. The Grand Elder frowned, as if he was considering the feasibility of Elder Zhang's words. But after thinking for a while, he still shook his head and said, I'm afraid it won't work. If it was our Snow Valley, would we do the exchange? This. Elder Zhang was a little speechless. Indeed, he had thought too simply. An inheritor was not only a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, but also the person who was most likely to step into the heavenly Tao. Therefore, every sect treasured it greatly. How could they exchange it so easily? Supreme Elder, I think Elder Zhang's words might sound a little unrealistic, but if you think about it carefully, it might not be impossible. Shueli said, after all, the heavenly stage island is the goal of all the ancient sects and ancient families. Although it is possible to open the heavenly stage island if the inheritors of the 5 elements and the inheritors of the water element are not complete, the success rate will be greatly reduced. So, for the sake of the big picture, I don't think the Ice Palace will refuse. Xiaoli is right. Once our Ice Palace loses an inheritor, it will be much more difficult to open the island. If we can really refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill, we can give it a try. The Great Elder pondered for a moment and said, then I'll contact the Ice Palace right now. If they agree, we'll try our best to find someone who can refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Shueli said, as for the heaven and earth treasures needed to refine the Ice Heart Pill, she did not have to worry about them. The Snow Valley was famous for producing heaven and earth treasures. Although it was a little difficult to collect the materials needed to refine the Ice Heart Pill, it was not a difficult task for the Snow Valley. The meeting came to an end. Shueli went to contact the Ice Palace, Highest Elder went back to cultivate, and the other 3 elders went back to their respective duties. Elder Zhang, there are a few people outside the Snow Valley. They say they're here to buy treasures. Do you? Seeing Elder Zhang come out, the patrolling disciple immediately went to greet him. Today, Elder Zhang was on duty. Everything in the Snow Valley had to be done by Elder Zhang. Oh, then bring them to the guest hall to see me. The Snow Valley didn't reject anyone who wanted to buy treasures. This was also the source of income for the Snow Valley. Because of its geographical location, the Snow Valley was different from the Ice Palace. Other than a naturally formed depression, there was nothing else. There were no dangerous spirit beasts, nor were there steep cliffs. It couldn't be a training ground, so the Snow Valley couldn't start a training ground. They could only rely on the special climate and environment to plant treasures to exchange for money. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu didn't think that the elders of the Snow Valley would be so easygoing. They actually agreed to receive them in the guest hall. This was out of Meng Yao and the others' expectations. After all, an ancient sect was a high and mighty existence. Sending an elder to receive them was a bit too much. However, what they did not know was that the Snow Valley had always been like this. This was how the Snow Valley survived. As for why the elders had to receive them, it was because the value of the heaven and earth treasures could only be decided by the elders. The other disciples of the Snow Valley could not decide on their own. So, instead of letting them receive them, it was better for the elders to come out personally. This is our Snow Valley's elder on duty, Elder Zhang. If you need any treasures, you could discuss it with him. The patrolling disciple bowed politely to Elder Zhang in the reception hall, then left to continue his task of patrolling the valley. Greetings, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu all imitated the Jianghu people and bowed to Elder Zhang. However, Yushu was carrying Linny, so it was a bit difficult for her to do so. Elder Zhang glanced at Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu, a trace of doubt in his eyes. Even a Sky-class master couldn't directly see through a practitioner's strength, but a Sky-class master could tell if the person in front of him was a practitioner or not. But Elder Zhang didn't feel the existence of pure qi in the 3 of them, so he was a little confused. The people who came here to buy heavenly treasures were all cultivators for various sects or clans. Ordinary people would not know of the existence of the Snow Valley. But the 3 people in front of him made him a little uncertain about their identities. I heard that you need heavenly treasures, but you don't seem to be practitioners. Yes, we are not practitioners, Meng Yao admitted readily. Meng Yao admitted it straightforwardly. She knew that pretending was useless in front of a real practitioner, so she might as well admit it directly to avoid any misunderstandings. But the person she's carrying on her back is a practitioner. Elder Zhang didn't notice Lanny before. Although Yushu was carrying someone, it must be a patient. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1791. Shuegu, Part 2. Shuegu had seen a lot of things like this. A lot of sick practitioners would come here to ask for medicine, and naturally, they'd be carried here. But when Meng Yao said that he was a practitioner, Elder Zhang looked at Lin Yi and walked over, wanting to test Lin Yi's strength when Yushu called out, "Careful!" "Oh!" Elder Zhang paused, but he could feel the heat coming from Shu and Lin Yi as well. His eyes narrowed. Fire element? Deviated? We're not sure if he's a fire element, but he's definitely deviated. Meng Yao said, "We're here to buy treasures for him. If I'm not mistaken, you're here for the ice spirit's fruit, right?" Elder Zhang saw Lin Yi's condition, and guessed what they were thinking. These years, there'd been a few fire element practitioners who'd come here to ask for the fruit. Elder Zhang had experience in this area. Of course, as precious as the fire spirit's fruit was, the ice spirit's fruit was of no use to Shuegu at all. Shuegu's practitioners were all mist practitioners, and even if they deviated, they'd still need the fire spirit's fruit. Eating the ice spirit's fruit would probably kill them instantly. As a result, the ice spirit's fruit was only a way for them to earn money or exchange. But in terms of value, naturally it wasn't cheap. The few fruits they'd traded earlier had all brought them even more valuable treasures. Elder Zhang's eyes are sharp. "We're here for the ice spirit's fruit." The miss had never thought that there'd be a day where she'd flatter someone, but she said it so naturally, as if it was only natural for Lin Yi. Even she was surprised. "I wonder what heavenly materials and earthly treasures you would like to offer in exchange?" Elder Zhang said, "The ice spirit fruit is a special product of the Snow Valley. There is only one of them, and the production is extremely low. It is one of the most precious treasures of the Snow Valley. So if you can't take out a heavenly resource of equal or higher value to exchange for it, then we won't make a move. We don't have any treasures, but I heard that you can buy them with money. May I know how much the fruit is worth?" Meng Yao was planning to buy it anyway. She didn't have any treasures at all. "Purchase with money?" Elder Zhang paused. Only those hidden houses and small sects that didn't have much good stuff would come to the Snowy Valley to buy some treasures. But those were just normal stuff. The ice spirit fruit had never been sold for money, and the few that were sold were all bartered. "Yes," Meng Yao nodded. "I may be an elder of the Snow Valley, but I really can't decide the price of the fruit. Of course, even if you wanted to trade, I can't make the decision. It's all up to the Valley Master." Elder Zhang said, "Why don't you guys rest in the guest rooms nearby? I'll get back to you guys after I ask the Valley Master about the price. I'll follow Elder Zhang's orders." What else could Meng Yao say after that? Meng Yao was already very happy with this result. Since Elder Zhang didn't reject them on the spot, it meant that there was a chance. Meng Yao and the others were led to a guest room by the Snowy Valley disciple, and they settled down for the time being. Elder Zhang left for an entire night. When Meng Yao and the others arrived, it was already dusk, so it was normal for him to come back the next day. They weren't in a rush. In fact, Elder Zhang went to see the Valley Master, Sydney. But Sydney was discussing with the Ice Palace Master, Crystal Candy, whether or not they could give Xiao Xiao to the valley. Elder Zhang didn't dare disturb them, and decided to wait until the next morning to ask. However, the next morning, when Elder Zhang met Valley Master Xueli, Xueli's face was very gloomy. Her originally delicate and fair face was now as dark as it could be. After seeing Elder Zhang, she only nodded slightly. Although Xueli was the direct disciple of the Supreme Elder and the previous Old Valley Master, she was only a Heaven rank early stage master, while Elder Zhang was a Heaven rank middle stage master. Previously, Xueli was very respectful when she saw him. This time, something must have happened. "Valley Master, what happened?" Elder Zhang paused. He didn't have time to talk about the ice spirit fruit anymore. Bingtang politely declined the conditions proposed by our Snow Valley. Xueli sighed. Could it be that the Ice Palace didn't think about it? Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, each element needs at least 2 inheritors to have a high chance of opening the island. If there's only 1 inheritor, it'll be very, very difficult. Elder Zhang said weirdly. Of course Bingtang knows, but she hinted to me that those people have already found a candidate for the inheritor of the water element. Shweli said helplessly, so, together with the inheritor of the ice element from the ice palace, there will be 2 inheritors of the water element. Although it's safer to have 3, which sect would be willing to give away a master at the peak of the late phase of heaven rank and a future master of the way of heaven? That's true. Elder Zhang nodded, a regretful expression on his face. By the way, Elder Zhang, why have you come to find me? Sydney wasn't too happy that Crystal Candy rejected her, but some things couldn't be forced. Although she was young, she was still the master of a valley, so she quickly regained her composure and asked Elder Zhang politely, Valley Master, someone came to the valley to buy the ice spirit fruit. I don't know the price. Elder Zhang asked, buy the ice spirit fruit? Which sect? Fiery Mountain or Sky Elixir sect? Shweli was slightly stunned and asked. After all, the ice spirit fruit was a precious treasure, but it was also of little value. Only those who cultivated the fire attribute heart technique could use it. For others, it was neither a medicinal ingredient, nor could it increase their strength. That was why Shweli asked such a question. But whether it was the Fiery Mountain or the Sky Elixir sect, they would usually use treasures or pills of equal value. They wouldn't buy it with money. Only those hidden families and small sect would buy it with money. None of them. None of the 3 girls are cultivators. The only cultivator is a young man. He seems to be cultivating in the extreme Yang Heart Sutra and has gone berserk. I don't know who taught him to come here to ask for medicine. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1792. 1 billion. Sydney nodded. She didn't care where these people came from. The valley had its own rules, and as long as the price was right, they would sell it to you. 1 billion. Sydney said, that's not too high. Elder Zhang secretly clicked his tongue. For those hidden families and small sects that used money to buy treasures, the most expensive things they bought were only a few tens of millions, and even hundreds of millions were already quite amazing. But one ice spirit fruit actually asked for 1 billion. But thinking about it, it was not much. The Heavenly Elixir sect had promised to exchange the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill for 2 ice spirit fruits. However, Shweli's physique could not be changed by a single Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. If there was a marrow and bone remodeling pill and an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, there was hope to change her physique to the Ice Heart Jade Bone physique. However, the marrow and bone remodeling pill was something that only existed in legends. The Sky Elixir sect practiced fire arts, and when they used fire to make pills, it was easy for them to go crazy. The ice spirit fruit was a necessity. Of course, perhaps it was because the valley had something that the Sky Elixir sect needed, or maybe it was because of the arts they practiced, but the Sky Elixir sect's young master didn't ask for Sydney's hand in marriage. This saved Sydney a lot of trouble. I'll reply to them right away. Elder Zhang nodded. He clasped his fist and bade farewell before leaving the room. The next morning, a disciple from the Snow Valley brought food to Meng Yao, Tang Yun, and Yushu. It was light and simple, but one could see that the Snow Valley was very polite to the customers who came here to trade or buy treasures. Of course, this was also because these people could bring benefits to the valley. If they didn't have any treasures or money, they'd be kicked out a long time ago. Elder Zhang was a man with eyes. One look was enough to tell that Lin he was a practitioner who'd gone mad, and Meng Yao, on the other hand, had the temperament of a girl from a respectable family. Someone like that had to be rich. After breakfast, Meng Yao didn't expect Elder Zhang to be here so soon. She stood up respectfully. After all, she was here to ask for help. Everyone, Valley Master Shui has already replied, the Ice Spirit Holy Fruit is worth 1 billion. If you want to buy it, you can pay now. Elder Zhang said, 1 billion. Meng Yao's eyes were wide open. Even a rich girl like her couldn't close her mouth from the shock. Although she didn't know how much money her family had, she could definitely afford 1 or 200 million, but 1 billion. Elder Zhang himself was shocked by the price as well. He wasn't surprised by the reaction of Meng Yao and the others. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the price the Valley Master has quoted. If you can't accept it, then I'm sorry, but please leave. Wait, let's raise some funds. Meng Yao, naturally, couldn't just leave. 1 billion was an astronomical number to her, but she had to try no matter what. Of course. Elder Zhang nodded. Then I won't bother you guys any longer. If you have the funds, you can have the disciples on duty contact me. With that, Elder Zhang left, leaving Tang Yin, who was still in a daze. 1 billion? Her mother had been so happy when she'd gotten 100 million back at House Tang, but Shuegu was asking for 1 billion right off the bat. Wasn't that a little too much? But looking at Meng Yao's expression, it seemed like she was willing to buy it for 1 billion. This touched Tang Yun's heart. She didn't really understand Meng Yao's feelings, but Meng Yao treated Lin Yi very well. Yao Yao, this 1 billion. Tang Yun's face was filled with helplessness. My family can only afford 100 million. I'll talk to my dad and see how much he has. Meng Yao nodded. 1 billion is a big number, but judging from Elder Zhang's tone, there doesn't seem to be any room for negotiation. We'll have to try our best. Peng Zhan had been immersed in his own narcissism for the past few days, fantasizing about how Peng Zhan Industries could double its assets and become one of the largest corporations in the country. This was his lifelong dream, but it seemed that the dream wasn't that far off at the current rate of making money. His phone rang, and Peng Zhan picked it up. It was his daughter's number. He couldn't help but smile. Yao Yao, how are you doing at Star West Village? Meng Yao was silent. She didn't tell Peng Zhan about what happened to Lin Yi, but now she had to tell him the truth. Dad, something happened to Lin Yi. What? Something happened to Lin Yi? Peng Zhan paused. What happened to him? He went berserk during his training, and now his whole body is heating up. He's like a furnace. Meng Yao explained Lin Yi's situation. We need a medicine to solve his problem, but they asked for 1 billion. 1 billion? Peng Zhan frowned. He was shocked by the number. He'd made quite a lot of money recently, but this was an astronomical number. That much. Dad, can you take it out? This is Lin Yi's life-saving money. We can't waste any time. Meng Yao knew that she'd put her father in a difficult position, but she said it with determination. Yao Yao, don't worry. 1 billion, right? I'll think of something for you. Peng Zhan's importance to Lin Yi wasn't any less than Meng Yao's. He'd picked up some clues from the phone call he'd had with his father, and so he didn't need to contact his father this time. He decided that he had to save Lin Yi first, no matter what. That's good. Meng Yao let out a breath of relief upon hearing that. Yao Yao, wait for my call. I'll help you get the money. Peng Zhan said. As profitable as in Ming Yue's plan was, Peng Zhan had no choice but to withdraw a portion of his funds for Lin Yi's sake. As a result, Peng Zhan called Mingwei immediately after hanging up. Peng Zhan, bro, why are you calling me again? Didn't I tell you about the results of the battle? You're not in such a hurry, are you? And Mingwei asked with a smile on his face, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. You're going to be a pauper soon. Calling you Peng Zhan, bro, is already an honor. Hashtag. Chapter 1793. Withdrawal. Mingwei, bro, it's like this. Something happened to my family. Can you see if you can withdraw the 1 billion first? Is it really urgent here? Peng Zhan was worried about Lin Yi, so he didn't bother with small talk with Mingwei, getting straight to the point. Withdraw? And Mingwei paused, not expecting Peng Zhan to withdraw his investment at this time. He'd be able to take some of the money away if he were to withdraw the 1 billion, but he'd be able to come back to life with it. Peng Zhan was a veteran in the business world, and it was all thanks to the hypnotist that he'd lost his mind. That's right. Please help me out, Mingwei bro. Peng Zhan said. What is it, Peng Zhan bro? And Mingwei asked, unfazed. Something happened to my family. It's not convenient for me to talk about it. Peng Zhan, naturally, wouldn't spill the beans about Lin Yi. I see. I'm not sure if I can withdraw my investment now. After all, I don't know anything about futures, so I'll just ask and get back to you later. And Mingwei didn't reject it right away. It'd be too fake if he did. All right, I'll wait for your call, Peng Zhan said, and Mingwei hung up and looked at Jiang Wen curiously. Jiang Wen, what do you think Peng Zhan's playing at this time? He's withdrawing the 1 billion? Jiang Wen didn't have much to do these days, and his focus was on trapping Peng Zhan. Every time Mingwei and Peng Zhan talked, He'd put them on speaker and recorded, so Jiang Wen could hear everything clearly. I'm not sure, but I can't let him withdraw the money. I have to make him bankrupt before I can get Meng Yao. But wouldn't Ping Zhan suspect something if we don't give it to him? Mingwei said worriedly. Even if you give him the 1 billion, can't you get the hypnotist to tell Ping Zhan to marry Meng Yao to you? What's the point? The key is that Meng Yao herself has to be willing. With Lin Yi and Yushu, those two bastards, there's no point in Ping Zhan agreeing to it. Jiang Wen shook his head. Then what about hypnotizing Meng Yao? Mingwei asked. Hypnosis is only temporary. You can hypnotize her for a while, but you can't hypnotize her forever. She'll be in trouble when she wakes up, and what I want is Meng Yao's heart. Otherwise, I'll just kidnap her and do what's done. Wouldn't that be the end of the world? But I don't like this feeling. In Jiang Wen's heart, there was a perverted obsession that had driven him completely insane. Then what should we do? And Mingwei listened to Jiang Wen completely when it came to Ping Zhan. After all, Jiang Wen was the leader of the whole thing. Dad, the hypnotist thing reminded me of something. How about this? I'll let the hypnotist hint to Ping Zhan and ask him what he's doing with the 1 billion. We'll make a decision after that. Jiang Wen said after some thought. All right, we'll make a decision after we get to the bottom of it. And Mingwei nodded. Jiang Wen's position in the firewolves right now was absolute. Although he was using the firewolves' power to do his personal business, neither the hypnotist nor the professor had any objections. After all, he was doing his best to earn money for the firewolves, and at the same time, he had to get some benefits for his family, right? And so, the hypnotist pretended to be in Ming Yue's secretary after listening to Jiang Wen's words, and went to see Ping Zhan with him. Ping Zhan wasn't expecting Ming Yue to come see him personally. He welcomed him in the company's guest room. Mingwei, bro, what's the matter? You could just tell me over the phone. You don't have to come to the company, do you? Haha, I'm just passing by. And Mingwei said as he gave the hypnotist a look. The hypnotist's mouth emitted a very strange sound wave. After that, Peng Zhan's expression froze for a moment, and his eyes became a little sluggish. Peng Zhan, why are you pulling out the 1 billion? The hypnotist asked directly. Because Yao Yao called, saying that Yi's going crazy with his training, and he needs the 1 billion to buy the medicine. So I have to pull out the 1 billion. Peng Zhan said expressionlessly. Who's he? The hypnotist asked subconsciously. It's Lin Yi. Peng Zhan said. The hypnotist turned around and looked at Mingwei. He'd asked all the questions Jiang Wen wanted him to ask, and now he was waiting for Mingwei to make the decision. Hint to him that he can't just pull his money out of a business like this. If he changes his methods now, he might lose everything, but make him insist on pulling out the money. And Mingwei said he didn't have a good excuse to explain how he'd lose everything, but now that Ping Zhan was pulling out the money, wasn't this a good excuse? All right. The hypnotist nodded and let out another strange sound wave, repeating what Mingwei had said to Ping Zhan. After that, another sound wave came out of his mouth, and Peng Zhan returned to normal. What happened just now? Did he fall asleep? Peng Zhan paused. Peng Zhan, bro, you were spacing out? I was just about to talk to you about pulling out the money. And Mingwei said, Peng Zhan, bro, I've asked Jiang Wen's friend, and he told me that financial investments are different from other businesses. If he were to pull out the money now, it might affect the whole plan, and he might lose everything. Why's that? Peng Zhan paused. I'm not too sure myself, but it's probably the same principle as being a banker in a stock market. I don't know the specifics either. And Mingwei said, a financial genius like him must be doing things differently from others. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to make so much money. I see. Peng Zhan was a veteran in the business world, but he'd never been involved in financial investments before. He only had a general idea of how stocks and futures worked, but he didn't know much about the more complicated ones. He was a little hesitant after hearing Ming Yue's words, but there was a voice in the depths of his heart that kept urging him to pull out the money, even if it meant a loss. He had to pull out the money, and so, under the urging and hinting, Peng Zhan said, Mingwei, bro, help me talk to that person. He has to pull out the money. All right, but it's very easy for things to go wrong, if something were to go wrong. And Mingwei said innocently with a shrug. Hashtag. Chapter 1794. Lose all one's capital. I'll take responsibility if there's a problem. Peng Zhan said. Should we start withdrawing now? How should I put this? And Mingyue wanted to stop Peng Zhan, but didn't know what to say. After some hesitation, he said, Fine, if that's the case, Peng Zhan bro, we're both businessmen. Give me an authorization document. We won't take responsibility if there's a problem. All right, no problem. Peng Zhan didn't think much about it, and with the hypnotist's hint, he gave the authorization document to Mingyue without hesitation. After getting the document, Mingyue didn't stay any longer. She directly returned to the company with the hypnotist. However, on the way back, Mingyue almost wanted to look up to the sky and laugh. What a great thing! And Mingyue and Jiang Wen had been very careful when they were doing this, keeping a recording of the call. They didn't want Meng Yao to suspect something and ask Lin Yi to cause trouble for them. But now, House Chu's only pillar of support, Lin Yi, had gone into a deviation. Even the heavens were helping Housen. There was no way Mingyue was going to give Peng Zhan this 1 billion. And not only that, he wouldn't give Peng Zhan a single cent. At first, Jiang Wen and Mingyue had planned to create a false account when they went long or short. But the problem was that this financial genius had been making money before. Why would he lose everything all of a sudden? The futures market was ever-changing, but it didn't make sense at all. But that wasn't a problem anymore. And Mingyue could just say that it was Peng Zhan's insistence on withdrawing the funds, forcing the trader to change the original plan. Not only did they fail to withdraw the funds, but they even ruined the plan, causing all the funds to go down the drain. Jiang Wen was very happy after hearing the news. Lin Yi had gone mad? The heavens had opened their eyes. They could do whatever they wanted now that the biggest obstacle in front of them was gone. With that thought, Jiang Wen and Mingyue went ahead with their plan. When Peng Zhan got the reply from Mingyue, it was as if he'd been struck by lightning. He sat in his office with the phone in his hand, speechless. Lost money? All of it. How could this be? Just because he wanted to withdraw his investment in advance, his entire plan was disrupted, and he ended up losing everything? Peng Zhan's expression was a little dazed as he stared at the familiar office. How many years of hard work was all gone in an instant? But as sad as he was, Peng Zhan didn't forget about the important matter at hand. He suppressed the sadness in his heart after Mingyue told him the news. Mingyue bro, can you lend me $1 billion first? This sum of money is too important to me. I will definitely return it double in the future. Brother Peng Zhan, it's not about me lending you $1 billion. Most of the money you lost was taken out by our clan. Big Brother and the old man are urging me to take over Peng Zhan Industries. And Mingyue smiled bitterly. Brother Peng Zhan, you know that our clan lent most of our funds to you. Where do we have the money now? Peng Zhan was dumbfounded after hearing the words. His company was going to be gone as well. Peng Zhan didn't even think about losing money when he took out his company's shares and assets as collateral, but the hypnotist's suggestion made him put everything on the line. Even at this moment, he still didn't dare to believe that he'd actually lost everything. How could this be possible? He could have made money from this. Brother Peng Zhan, to be honest, Housen has suffered heavy losses this time as well. We didn't want to participate in this at first, but you insisted on doing something big again. We didn't have enough funds, so we had to replenish our funds, but now we've lost everything. And Mingyue said, All right, Brother Peng Zhan, my big brother will be taking over the company and those assets tomorrow. I hope you can cooperate. Peng Zhan's heart was filled with bitterness and confusion. He wanted to say something, but Mingyue had already hung up. Even now, Peng Zhan didn't think that it was Mingyue who'd set him up. One could see how powerful the hypnotist was and how powerful the hypnotist was. But no matter what, Peng Zhan dialed Meng Yao's number first. He'd promised Meng Yao that he'd call her if there was any news, but now he had to tell her no matter what, right? As much as Peng Zhan wanted to help, there was nothing he could do. He might be sitting in his office, but he had nothing left. Daddy, how is it? Meng Yao had been waiting for Peng Zhan's call, but it had been a day and a night without any news. She was very nervous. Yao, I can't get my funds out for now. Peng Zhan hesitated, not telling the truth. Yao Yao must have been worried about Lin Yi's situation. She'd be even more worried if he told her that he had nothing left. Meng Yao paused after hearing her father's words. I used all my money for that big project, so... Peng Zhan lied. I'm sorry. Yao Yao, I'll think of something, Daddy. But Lin Yi's situation can't be delayed. Meng Yao was panicking. If we don't buy the medicine, his life might be in danger. I'll think of something else. Yao Yao, don't worry. Peng Zhan said bitterly. Daddy, I'll think of another way. Meng Yao knew that her father was in a difficult position, or else he'd be more worried about Lin Yi than she was. She could tell from her father's attitude when Lin Yi was injured last time. Meng Yao couldn't force it upon him anymore. Meng Yao's face wasn't looking too good after hanging up. Tang Yun and Shu had heard the conversation with Peng Zhan, and they understood her predicament. But what about Lin Yi? Maybe I should ask Fatty Lai. Maybe he can help. Tang Yun was helpless, and the only person she could think of was Fatty Lai. All right, let's see if he has any money. Meng Yao's eyes lit up as well. But they didn't know that Fatty Lai's life was very difficult. All the money he had was used to pay the workers, but even so, he wouldn't be able to last long. House Liu was out of money, and the dealers who didn't get their refund banded together to collect the debt from Fatty Lai and House Liu. Chapter 1795. She didn't know much about business, but she'd been with Peng Zhan for a long time, so she knew the basics. This time, House Kong had come prepared. They must have a master guiding them to be able to release so many new medicines in such a short time. Unless Lin Yi or Lin Dongfang were there, it was impossible for them to take down Dr. Kang's medical group with just a few formulas. You had it, and so did they. You didn't have an absolute advantage. Even if you sold the same things at the same price as them, you still wouldn't be able to win against Dr. Kang's brand. That's true, and Fatty Lai doesn't seem to have any money at all. He doesn't have any starting capital, so it's useless to just have the formulas. Tang Yun sighed. She wanted to borrow money from Bingtang the most, but how would she get in touch with her? In Songshan, Peng Zhan dejectedly transferred all his shares and assets to Hao Sin's name. He didn't want to, but Peng Zhan had to go through all of Hao Sin's accounts. Peng Zhan had gotten a few financial experts to look at them, and all of them had come to the same conclusion. Their previous setup was perfect, but the sudden withdrawal had affected the overall situation, resulting in a huge loss for them. Of course, this was also because Jiang Wen had asked the Firewolves to help him, hiring some analysts to create fake accounts based on the market. Not many people could predict the future's market accurately, but creating fake accounts based on the past market was something that most analysts and traders could do. Sacred Peng Zhan thought of his retired father, his daughter Meng Yao, and Lin Yi. He was in a daze and depressed. All his assets were gone, including his cars, properties, and even Yao Yao's villa and car were all under House N's name. Peng Zhan felt like he was at the end of his rope. He didn't have the face to face his father, his daughter, and Lin Yi. Meng Yao's villa, on the other hand, was under Peng Zhan's name. House N didn't take over Meng Yao's villa right away, but they did say that they'd take it after Meng Yao packed her stuff. Yushu's villa, on the other hand, was under Peng Zhan's name. Now, the only thing that belonged to the Chu family was her father's bungalow in the village, but it was not worth much. Mr. Chu, money is gone, but we can earn it again. You can't be depressed. Faubert had seen Peng Zhan's rise and fall with his own eyes, but Faubert didn't know much about Peng Zhan's investments, nor would he interfere. Faubert felt that there was something fishy about the whole thing, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. Li Fu, with your skills, find a new boss. I don't have the money to pay you anymore. Chu Peng Zhan looked at Faubert and smiled bitterly. Holy Church, Mr. Chu, what are you talking about? Li Fu staying here, not because of money. I have long regarded you and Yao Yao as a family. Faubert said, Moreover, I can say that I have received a great favor from Lin Yi. No matter who it is, I can't leave. All right. Peng Zhan patted Li Fu's shoulder and nodded heavily. Li Fu, go to Shu's villa and move the things back to Yao Yao's villa. What about you, Mr. Chu? Faubert paused and asked. I want to be alone, Don't disturb me. Pengzhan waved his hand. Well, all right. Fauber could see that Pengzhan wasn't in a good mood, and there was no point in trying to persuade him. It was better to let him calm down first. Pengzhan sat on a bench by the roadside, and Fauber walked quickly to Ocean View Bay Villa. The Bentley no longer belonged to them, and Fauber had to walk home. Fortunately, he was a practitioner, and walking was nothing to him. Jianda didn't expect Jiang Wen to be this ruthless, taking all of Pengzhan's assets and money into Haosen's hands. Not only did he not admire him, but he was even more jealous. But even if he was jealous, Jianda still had to smile and praise Pengzhan in front of his father and Mingyue and Jiang Wen. Jianda, didn't you say you have a grudge against Pengzhan? Pengzhan has no value at all now. You can make your move. And Mingri said to Jianda. No one knew his son better than a father, and he could tell that although Jianda had a smile on his face, he must be feeling a lot of pressure in his heart. Pengzhan was the perfect target for him to vent his anger on. Oh, brother, you have a grudge against Pengzhan? Why would you do that? Jiang Wen asked, surprised. He was calculating the pros and cons in his mind. No one would suspect him if he made a move against Pengzhan now, because Pengzhan had no value anymore. If Pengzhan had handed the money over to Haosen before this, people would have suspected Haosen, and for sure, if something had happened to Pengzhan. Haha, big bro, this business isn't as big as yours. It's just a small business, and I had some bad blood with him before. Jianda said with a fake smile. I wanted to make a move against him before, but I let him go when I heard that you were scamming money for Haosen. I see. Then, big bro, do you need my help? Jiang Wen had an idea. If something happened to Pengzhan now, wouldn't Meng Yao have no one to rely on? Plus, Lin Yi's condition was unknown, and Jiang Wen would be Meng Yao's only support. Otherwise, how was Meng Yao supposed to survive alone? At that thought, he wanted to help Jianda kill Pengzhan. It'd be best if you could help. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. I've prepared a car accident for Pengzhan, and I've already found a scapegoat. But if a hypnotist could hint to Pengzhan to commit suicide, we wouldn't have to bear too much responsibility. That'd be great. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. No problem. Jiang Wen agreed. I'll arrange for him to go with you right now. Pengzhan sat on a bench by the roadside. There were a few times he wanted to contact his father and tell him about his troubles, but he was afraid that the old man wouldn't be able to handle it. His company had become someone else's in the blink of an eye, and no one would feel good about that. His daughter, on the other hand, was in desperate need of money for Lin Yi's medicine. How was he supposed to explain this to her? Pengzhan hated himself. Why was he so obsessed? And Mingyue had told him to stop while he was ahead. Why was he still so greedy? Chapter 1796. Chapter 1808. Car accident. Humans die for riches. Birds die for food. There are plenty of examples like this in the world. If he hadn't been greedy for more money, he wouldn't have ended up with nothing at all. Young man, you seem to have something on your mind. An old man walked over to the bench beside Pengzhan and sat down. It was weird for him to call Pengzhan young man, but with his age, it wasn't too much. Ha! It's nothing. Pengzhan, naturally, didn't want to talk about his pain with a stranger. He only smiled faintly. If there's something on your mind, if there's something you can't solve, then go die. The old man said, minding his own business. Go die. Pengzhan paused, a trace of confusion flashing through his eyes. He stood up abruptly and started stumbling forward, charging towards a van that was speeding past. A loud bang sounded as the van sent Pengzhan's body flying. Followed by the screech of the brakes, the old man stood up, not even looking at Pengzhan as he turned and left. He was the hypnotist in disguise. The police and ambulance arrived at the scene quickly, but the van driver didn't run away. Instead, he was kneeling on the ground with his head lowered, not knowing what to do next. The ambulance took Pengzhan away and rushed to the hospital, leaving the police behind to investigate the scene. The van's dashcam showed that Pengzhan seemed to have committed suicide, crashing into the van of his own volition. At least, that was what the video showed. The police couldn't confirm the victims or the victim's identity yet, so they couldn't confirm whether or not the victim had a motive to commit suicide. They had to investigate further to determine if the driver should be held responsible. However, the results of the investigation came out quickly. Peng Zhan was the former chairman of Peng Zhan Industries, but his recent investments had failed, causing him to lose everything. From this, it could be seen that his motive for suicide was very clear. According to the owner of a nearby newsstand who had witnessed the whole accident, Peng Zhan had indeed rammed into the car of his own volition. He'd been sitting on a bench by the side of the road when an old man passed by and said a few words to Peng Zhan. It was as if Peng Zhan had gone insane and rammed into the car that was coming his way. That old man was suspicious, and perhaps he'd said something to provoke Peng Zhan, or maybe he'd failed to persuade Peng Zhan, causing him to commit suicide. However, the newsstand owner didn't remember what the old man looked like, and his attention was diverted by the accident. As for when the old man left, he didn't see it clearly. The driver of the van didn't have to bear any responsibility with the driver and the car recorder as witnesses. Peng Zhan didn't die on the spot, but he was sent to the hospital's intensive care unit. Li Fu rushed to the hospital the moment he got the news. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't know about all this. She was waiting for her father's call, but there was no answer. She tried again, but there was still no answer. Meng Yao didn't think much about it, thinking that Peng Zhan was in a meeting. When she was about to call again, Elder Zhang appeared in the guest room. "Have you guys made up your mind?" Elder Zhang still had the same humble smile on his face, but his words were very formal. Even if he was a heaven stage expert, he would always use the same tone when dealing with customers who came to exchange or buy heavenly treasures. This was also the way of survival in the Snow Valley. Even cultivators had to eat and drink. They also needed money to buy other natural treasures for cultivation. "Elder Zhang, can we discuss this? We don't have that much money on hand right now. Can you give us the ice spirit's fruit for my friend first, and we'll gather the money later?" Tang Yin hesitated before begging sincerely. "We'll definitely gather the money, but we can't be too fast. I'm afraid my friend won't be able to last that long. Dear customers, our Snowy Valley has always been a business deal. We don't take credit, so I'm sorry, but please leave." Elder Zhang said faintly. Elder Zhang, please, we'll give you the money. It's just that we don't have that much right now, but my friend really can't wait much longer." Tang Yin stood up and bowed deeply. "Please, Elder Zhang, please let us go. I understand how you guys feel, but we've seen this a lot in Snowy Valley over the years. If we take credit every time, wouldn't we be breaking the rules?" Elder Zhang's face didn't change at all. Nothing could be accomplished without rules. "You guys don't need to say anymore. You can come by the ice spirit's fruit when you have enough money. Otherwise, there's no need to talk." "Elder Zhang, I'm begging you. Can you talk to the valley head?" "Thank you." Meng Yao was panicking as well, begging with Tang Yin. "Please, Elder Zhang, this is his only hope. If he misses it, I'm afraid, fine, I'll ask for you guys, but it's up to the valley head to decide." Elder Zhang was a kind-hearted person. Looking at these ordinary people in front of him who did not have the slightest bit of strength, he naturally felt some admiration for them for coming all the way to the Snow Valley to seek medicine for a cultivator. If Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and the others were practitioners, Elder Zhang wouldn't have let them in. But they weren't. Elder Zhang felt a bit of sympathy for them, seeing that they had come all the way here. "Thank you, Elder Zhang." Tang Yin's eyes flashed with gratitude. Elder Zhang nodded and didn't say anything else. He turned around and left the room. However, the results of Elder Zhang's report disappointed Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Shu. The Valley Master only replied with 2 words, "No." Elder Zhang said regretfully, "Everyone, this is the Valley Head's wish. I can't do anything about it. Please go back." This was the Snowy Valley. They relied on selling treasures to make money. If it were the Ice Palace, Tang Yin and the others wouldn't receive such treatment. Going to the Ice Palace to buy the Fire Spirit's fruit. Even if a normal person offered 2 billion or even 10 billion, Bing Tang wouldn't be moved. After all, the Fire Spirit's fruit was a necessary medicine for the Ice Palace practitioners to prevent themselves from going crazy, but the Ice Spirit's fruit was just a precious medicine to the Snowy Valley. It had no use for them. Hashtag. Chapter 1797. Rock Candy's sister Tang Yun and Meng Yao looked at each other. They could see the sadness in each other's eyes, but Tang Yun still didn't want to give up. If she really left like this, then Lin Yi would be in danger. That was worse than killing her. Elder Zhang, can you please introduce us to the headmaster so that we can ask for it personally? Tang Yun knew that this request was a bit over the top, but she had no other choice. Little girl, I advise you to leave. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Shueli had been humiliated by Bingtang and was in a bad mood. This was also the reason why Shueli rejected him before he could even finish his sentence. Hence, from his point of view, Shueli wouldn't agree to their suggestion no matter what Tang Yun said. After all, this had never happened in the history of the Snow Valley. How could there be a debt on credit? Elder Zhang, I'm begging you. We can really gather enough money, but my friend can't wait that long. Tang Yun bowed deeply to Elder Zhang again. Then I'll have to trouble you. Little girl, we can't do anything without rules. Although I believe you, the headmaster might not. If our valley does business like this in the future, then wouldn't it be a mess? Elder Zhang said. Little girl, you might not know this, but the headmaster isn't someone you can meet just because you want to. Even if it's a disciple, they might not be able to meet the headmaster. Although Elder Zhang didn't say it clearly, the meaning behind his words was clear. With Tang Yun's group's identity, it was impossible for them to request to see the Valley Master. Tang Yun hesitated and gritted her teeth. Elder Zhang, please tell the headmaster that I am the sister of the Ice Palace's headmaster, Rock Candy. Tell her not to worry. We won't give her a single cent less. This time my friend used the fruit, so I'll go to the Ice Palace to get the money. What? After hearing Tang Yun's words, Elder Zhang's face revealed an expression of extreme shock. He had originally thought that Tang Yun was only related to a small clan or a small sect, and came to the Snow Valley after being introduced. After all, the Snow Valley was different from the other ancient sections. Many people knew the location of the Snow Valley, and it was not a secret. We can even leave my friend here as collateral, and we'll take him away after we get the money. Tang Yin added, afraid that Elder Zhang wouldn't agree. However, Elder Zhang had a strange expression on his face. You said, you're the younger sister of the Ice Palace Master? Yes. Tang Yin nodded. Elder Zhang didn't know how to react. Wasn't Bingtang an orphan? Why was there a younger sister? What was going on? Based on what I know, the Ice Palace's Palace Master is an orphan. How could she have a sister? Elder Zhang asked. Just now, Tang Yin said. If Elder Zhang doesn't believe me, you can contact the Ice Palace to verify it. At first, Tang Yin didn't want to bring up this relationship, but she had no other choice. If she didn't say it now, they'd kick her out. Wait for a second. I'll go report to the Valley Master. Elder Zhang was shocked, but Tang Yun's expression didn't seem to be fake. After all, this kind of thing could be easily found out. There was no need for her to lie. If the Snow Valley found out that she was lying, then she wouldn't be able to get the Ice Spirit Fruit. Thank you, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun heard Elder Zhang's words and relaxed. Finally, there was a chance. May I ask what your name is? Elder Zhang asked. Tang Yun. Tang Yun said. All right, wait here. After saying that, Elder Zhang walked out of the guest room again. Although Elder Zhang had regained his composure on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. These ordinary people were related to the Palace Master of the Ice Palace, Rock Candy? But, since it involved Bingtang, Elder Zhang couldn't make the decision himself. He could only ask the Valley Master Sydney again. Valley Master Shui. After the disciple reported, Elder Zhang entered Sydney's room again. Elder Zhang, why are you back? Did they leave? Shueli felt a little strange. Elder Zhang had just asked those people about the credit, but in less than a quarter of an hour, he returned again, which made her feel a little puzzled. No, they want to see the Valley Master personally, Elder Zhang said. Valley Master Shui. However, before Elder Zhang could finish his words, Shueli's originally gloomy face became even gloomier. Her originally delicate and pretty face became a little strange. Meet me? Elder Zhang, why are you reporting this? Why didn't you just reject them? Although Sydney wasn't a sky-class late phase peak, She had a high reputation in the valley. This had to do with her being the Grand Elder and the old Valley Master's last disciple. Valley Master Shui. That's what I told them. However, one of them claimed to be the sister of the Ice Palace's Palace Master, so I can't make a decision. That's why I'm here to ask for your opinion. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Ice Palace Master? Which Palace Master? Sydney paused. Ice Palace Master Bingtang. Elder Zhang wasn't surprised by Sydney's reaction. After all, he was shocked when he first heard the news. What? She's Bingtang's sister? Sydney's expression changed slightly, but then a hint of embarrassment flashed across her face. Thinking about how Bingtang rejected her suggestion, she was pissed. You just rejected her, and now you're asking your sister to buy the fruit. Are you looking down on the valley? Yes, so Valley Master, it's better for you to meet her personally. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. After all, we're from the same lineage as the Ice Palace. From the same lineage? If Bingtang really saw the same lineage, why would she reject our suggestion? Although Sydney was the Valley Master, she was still young. She wasn't as mature as the elders. Let them go. Don't make me angry if they stay here. Yes, I'll send them away now. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Sydney was venting her anger on Bingtang's sister. It would have been better if he didn't mention their relationship. Now that he mentioned it, it made Sydney even angrier. Wait, a voice was heard. Before the person arrived, the voice reached them first. Then, a figure floated over and appeared in front of Shui Li and Elder Zhang. However, when they saw who it was, Sydney and Elder Zhang's expression turned serious. They cupped their fists and bowed. Greetings, Grand Elder. Hashtag. Chapter 1798. She turned and left. What happened? I just passed by and heard that Bingtang's sister is here. The Grand Elder looked at Elder Zhang. Yes, it's like this. Elder Zhang didn't dare to hide anything and told the Grand Elder everything that had happened in detail. Oh, what's her name? The Grand Elder asked. She said her name is Tang Yun. Elder Zhang said. Tang Yun. The Grand Elder's expression changed slightly. Although Bingtang's relationship with the hidden Tang family was a secret among the hidden houses, it wasn't much of a secret among the ancient people. More or less, the Snow Valley had their own information channels. The Grand Elder also knew that Bingtang had some relationship with the hidden Tang family. After all, their whereabouts couldn't be hidden from the Snowy Valley. If the person's surname was Tang, then she might really be Bingtang's sister. Shaoli, Elder Zhang, come with me to meet the sister of the Ice Palace Master. The Grand Elder said. Grand Elder, Bingtang just rejected our proposal. Why should we give her face? Sydney looked at the Grand Elder confusedly. Shaoli, do you think that I'm giving her face? The Grand Elder said faintly. Bingtang is also a Sky-class late-phase peak, but her cultivation is weaker than mine. Why would I be afraid of her? Then you are. Sydney didn't understand, and so did Elder Li. One had to know that the Great Elder usually did not receive guests. Even if the envoys of other ancient sects or ancient families came here, the Great Elder would not show himself. Only if the sect master of a sect personally came to the Snow Valley would the Great Elder appear. But today, for Bingtang's sister, the Grand Elder was going to greet her personally. It was unbelievable. Shaoli, why did you contact Bingtang? The Grand Elder asked. Is it because of the inheritor? Sydney wasn't stupid. After the Grand Elder's reminder, she realized something and her eyes flashed with joy. Grand Elder, you mean? That's right. Since Rock Candy has a fake Ice Heart Jade Bone constitution, could her sister also have the same constitution? The Grand Elder nodded his head and said, if her sister also has the same constitution, then as long as we take her in and refine an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill for her, we can solve the troubles of our Snow Valley for many years. All right, let's go take a look. Shui Li was a little excited, and her face was abnormally flushed. However, the coldness in her body was also raised to the extreme, along with the fluctuation of her mood. The whole room was like a world of ice and snow. In an instant, the furniture in the room was covered with a layer of frost. Fortunately, Elder Li and Grand Elder both cultivated the same ice attribute mental cultivation method, so they were not affected much. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long frozen to death. Little Lee, how many times have I told you that cultivating the heartless spell is to cultivate your mind? Only by maintaining a cold heart can you go further in the martial arts. You get angry easily, so it's not easy to cultivate your mind. Not being happy with material things and not being sad for yourself is the highest state of the cold heart. Little Lee was a little embarrassed. She lowered her head in front of the Grand Elder on the stage like a child. Sorry, Grand Elder got angry. Forget it. Who hasn't been young before? The Grand Elder shook her head helplessly. It was obvious that she loved Sydney very much. You're only in your 20s. It's normal for you to be like a child. Elder Zhang didn't say anything at the side. At this time, he could only pretend that he didn't see anything. The Grand Elder's attitude towards Sydney was very good, but it might not be the same for other people. The rules of the Snow Valley were very strict. If Elder Zhang laughed, he might be punished to patrol the valley, even if he was an elder. The Grand Elder, Sydney, and Elder Zhang came to the guest room together. The appearance of the Grand Elder and Sydney made Tang Yin a little confused. She didn't know who was the Valley Master of the Snow Valley, so she could only say, Valley Master Elder Zhang. This is our Snow Valley's Grand Elder. Elder Zhang gave Tang Yin a look and introduced. Ah, greetings, Grand Elder. Tang Yin's heart jumped. Why did the Grand Elder come over? Originally, she thought that it was not easy to see the Valley Master, but even the Grand Elder came. This made Tang Yin a little nervous. She didn't know why the Snow Valley would make such a big scene. Could it be because of the rock candy? Who is Tang Yin? The Grand Elder asked. It's me, Tang Yin said carefully. Give me your hand. Let me have a look. The Grand Elder looked at Tang Yin expressionlessly and said, okay. Tang Yin didn't know what the Grand Elder meant, but she still extended her hand and gave it to the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder directly pressed on Tang Yin's wrist, as if she was checking something. Elder Zhang and Sydney didn't say anything. This made Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu a little suspicious, but they didn't dare to ask. Although the Grand Elder didn't say anything, she frowned slightly. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the Grand Elder sighed and shook her head slightly. Elder Zhang, send the guest out. Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Yushu's faces changed. Although they didn't know why the Grand Elder suddenly wanted to send the guest out, Tang Yin didn't want to let go of this last chance. Her tears were about to fall. Grand Elder, Valley Master, please help us. I beg you, 1 billion. We will definitely give you 1 billion. The Great Elder didn't even want to say a word. Sometimes, things were just that realistic. If the Great Elder found out that Tang Yin really had a fake ice heart and jade bone physique, she would probably try her best to please her and make her stay. However, Tang Yin wasn't. In her eyes, she had no value at all. She was no different from an ordinary person. Please, I beg you. At this moment, Tang Yin thought of something. Back then, Xiao Xiao was chosen by the Ice Palace because of her cold body. She became the heir of the Ice Palace, and it was because of this that Xiao Xiao's life could continue. But if Xiao Xiao didn't have a cold body, then things would be different. Fortunately, Lin Yi's perseverance touched Elder Qing, and she also found out about Xiao Xiao's cold body. Before, the Grand Elder was probably testing her body, but Tang Yin naturally knew that she didn't have a cold body. She didn't have an ice heart and jade bones. Even a fake one like Bing Tang didn't have one. Otherwise, Bing Tang would have found it long ago, and the Grand Elder wouldn't have had a check. Hashtag target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1799. Her hair and eyelashes were covered in ice crystals and snowflakes, but Tang Yin didn't move at all. She knelt in front of the entrance. She believed that her sincerity would move the Grand Elder and the Valley Master. Yun sis. Are you all right? Yushu would get out of the car every once in a while to check on Tang Yin. She was afraid that Tang Yin would freeze to death. Normal people wouldn't be able to endure this cold weather. I'm fine. Tang Yin's voice was weak but firm. Oh, it's so cold. Can you take it? Shu asked hesitantly. It's fine. I told you that I'm quite cold resistant. I used to live in a bungalow, and it was cold in the winter too. Tang Yun smiled bitterly. She was indeed freezing, and her body was stiff. Kneeling for so long was something normal people wouldn't be able to take. Even if Tang Yun was cold resistant, how could she relax in this kind of weather? Shu, on the other hand, couldn't take it anymore. Yin sis, I'll be going back then. Take care of yourself. We'll think of something else if you can't handle it. Lin, he said with a smile on his face. All right, Yin sis. Okay. Tang Yun gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. Linny, I can do it. I've never been able to do anything for you, but this time I can proudly tell you that I'm a strong girl. Yushu went back to the car and saw Meng Yao's wet eyes. Yao sis. Do you think Yin sis will freeze to death if she keeps this up? Don't jinx it, Saint Hall. Sanctuary. Meng Yao glared at Shu. Shu quickly covered her mouth and changed her words. No. Prophet Shu needs to make a new prophecy. Not only can Yin sis not freeze to death, she'll freeze even more. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Freeze even more? What kind of logic was that? In the snowy valley, Elder Zhang heard the disciples report and sighed helplessly. He was this month's class elder, so he was in charge of everything in the valley. He knew Tang Yun's situation like the back of his hand. Although Elder Zhang didn't order the patrolling disciples to chase Tang Yun and the others away, he still couldn't help but worry. He hesitated for a moment and walked towards the Grand Elder's room. Coincidentally, Sydney was also in the Grand Supreme Elder's room. Elder Zhang hurriedly greeted them one by one. Elder Zhang, what brings you here to this old lady? The Great Elder nodded and asked. Since Elder Zhang was here, he was naturally looking for her, the Great Elder, and not for Sydney. Grand Supreme Elder, that Tang Yun is still kneeling at the entrance of the snowy valley. Elder Zhang said and hesitated. No matter what, she's the sister of the Ice Palace's Palace Master Bingtang. If something happens to her in the snowy valley, then the snowy valley won't be able to escape the blame, right? Elder Zhang, you're the class elder. You're in charge of patrolling the snowy valley. Since you saw her there, why didn't you let her leave? The Grand Supreme Elder asked back. This? Elder Zhang's face reddened. He was kind-hearted and saw that these children weren't easy to deal with. He wanted to help them, so he told the Grand Supreme Elder about it. He didn't expect the Grand Supreme Elder to see through his intentions. However, Elder Zhang still said, Grand Supreme Elder, she's kneeling outside the mountain gate. Strictly speaking, that place isn't the Snowy Valley's territory. Also, according to the rules of the Snowy Valley, we can't attack ordinary people. Tang Yun isn't a practitioner, so I can't force her away. If that's the case, you already said that that place isn't the Snowy Valley's territory. If an ordinary person wants to commit suicide there, what does that have to do with the Snowy Valley? The Grand Supreme Elder said coldly, when she freezes to death, then you can come and report to me. Yes, then I'll go do my work first. Elder Zhang smiled helplessly and turned to leave. After Elder Zhang left, Sydney frowned and said, Grand Supreme Elder, although Bingtang rejected our suggestion, if her sister really freezes to death here, wouldn't that be inappropriate? She's not an idiot. Since she's here to save people, how could she lose her life? The Grand Supreme Elder said faintly, It's rare for an ordinary person to last one day and one night. But just watch. If she really doesn't want to die, she'll leave tomorrow. But if she really wants to die and doesn't leave by tomorrow, then I'll send her away. Yes, Sydney nodded. The next day, Tang Yun was still kneeling in the snow. She only drank some water and ate some biscuits to replenish her energy, but she still knelt there. Tang Yun's endurance surprised Meng Yao and Yushu. If it was a normal person, wouldn't they turn into a popsicle after being frozen for 1 day and 2 nights? Although Tang Yun was in some pain, it didn't seem to be a big deal. That's amazing. Yushu just gave Tang Yun some biscuits and water and went back to the car. Amazed, Yin sis really didn't die. Prophet Shu's prophecy worked. Amazing? I think you're pretty amazing too, not dying from the heat after so many days. Meng Yao was used to it. Ever since Lin came to the villa, there had been too many weird things happening. First, it was Xiao Xiao's cold body, then Shu's heat conductivity, and now Tang Yun's cold resistance. Oh, that's true. Yushu nodded. Elder Zhang received a report from the patrolling disciples that Tang Yun could still eat and drink. He was shocked, but he was relieved that Tang Yun wasn't dead. But thinking about what the Grand Supreme Elder said yesterday, Elder Zhang decided not to disturb her anymore. The rules of the Snowy Valley were very strict, and Elder Zhang didn't want to trouble the Grand Supreme Elder with the same thing. Since the Grand Supreme Elder said to report to him when Tang Yun died, why would Elder Zhang go to the Grand Supreme Elder before that? Unless there was something important in the valley that he needed to report to the Grand Supreme Elder. On the third day, Tang Yun was still kneeling on the snowy ground, with a thick layer of snow on her body. However, to show her sincerity, Tang Yun didn't wipe the snow off her body, allowing it to stay on her body. Only when Yushu brought her food and mineral water would the snow on her hair fall off a little. Elder Zhang, Tang Yun hasn't left yet. She's still kneeling in front of the mountain. A patrolling disciple reported to Elder Zhang. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1800. Oh, she hasn't left yet? Elder Zhang was startled. It had been 3 days. Even a normal practitioner wouldn't be able to take it, unless they were a water practitioner. But Tang Yun, a normal person, was able to kneel for 3 days. Elder Zhang found it hard to believe. In these 3 days, did she go back to the carriage to rest? Reporting to Elder Zhang, we didn't see her go back to rest. With our eyesight, she didn't move at all except for eating a little compressed biscuits and drinking a little mineral water every morning. The patrolling disciple said. Elder Zhang nodded in surprise. This patrolling disciple was also an Earth class master. If he could tell that Tang Yun hadn't gone back to rest, then she hadn't rested at all. However, Tang Yun's endurance surprised him. He wanted to talk to the elder again, but when he remembered what the Grand Elder said, he shook his head and sighed. Then he went back to work, the 4th day, the 5th day, the 10th day. Every day, the patrolling disciple would report to Elder Zhang about Tang Yun's situation. Elder Zhang's initial shock had turned into confusion. Was Tang Yun a normal person? She hadn't frozen to death after so many days? Was she a Sky-class master? One had to know that in this snowy valley, even an Earth-class master would need to use some medicine to train. Tang Yun only ate some biscuits and water. How could she be fine? Did she have some kind of treasure on her that could keep her warm? But thinking of this possibility, Elder Zhang shook his head. Tang Yun knew the rules of the snowy valley. Treasures could be bought with money, but they could also be traded with other treasures. If Tang Yun had something like that, she would have taken it out a long time ago. Actually, what Elder Zhang didn't know was that although Tang Yun looked fine, her entire body was frozen. She ate less and less biscuits and water every day because her stomach was frozen. Her digestion was getting slower and slower. Until this morning, Tang Yun didn't eat anything because she wasn't hungry anymore. Meng Yao's face showed deep worry. Tang Yun's situation was getting worse and worse. It looked like Tang Yun could hold on, but as time went on, Tang Yun seemed to be at the end of the road. She could die at any time, but no matter how hard she and Yushu tried to persuade her, Tang Yun insisted on kneeling there, not moving at all. Sigh, could it be that the people of Snow Valley all have hearts of stone? Meng Yao wasn't just worried about Tang Yun. She was also worried about Lin Yi. Lin Yi's body was getting hotter and hotter. Now, there was no need to turn on the heater in the car. The whole car was warmed by Lin Yi's body temperature. But Meng Yao knew that if this continued, he would reach his limit even with Shu's help. At that time, even the ice spirit fruit would not be able to suppress the heat inside Lin Yi's body. At that time, it would be too late. Holy Church, persevere, persevere, I must persevere. This was the cry in Tang Yun's heart. She couldn't feel her legs anymore, and she couldn't feel her body. She could only move her hands a little, and she even felt that her thoughts had become rigid. A few days ago, she could still remember all the sweet moments she had with Lin Yi to cheer herself up, but now, she couldn't even think about it anymore. On the 15th day, Tang Yun felt that she couldn't hold on anymore. Yes, she really couldn't. She felt that her vision was getting blurry, and her brain couldn't think like a normal person anymore. Facing Yushu's question, she could only say an "in" to show that she was still alive, but Tang Yun herself knew that she was probably going to die soon. Was this what it felt like before death? Tang Yun, on the other hand, didn't seem to feel the pain at all. Slowly, her consciousness started to blur, and her entire body started to relax. It was as if the soul had left its shell, and she felt like her body was floating in the air. At this moment, the scene in front of her changed from blurry to clear. Tang Yun was surprised to find that she was standing at the highest point of the valley. At this moment, she was looking down at the entire valley. She was at the center of the valley, with the majestic mountain gate, the steep cliffs, the snowy ground, and the warm sunlight. All of these seemed to form a beautiful picture, and Tang Yun had a strange feeling in her heart, as if she had melded into the picture. Tang Yun took a step forward and slowly walked in the air. The snow fell around her, but seemed like it didn't touch her at all. Instead, it melted the moment it touched her body. At that moment, Tang Yun felt like she was a goddess. Everything in the valley seemed to be born for her. She reached out her hand, and the snow in front of her turned into a small whirlpool, circling between her white hands as if it was performing something for her, trying to please her. Her stiff body seemed to have disappeared at this moment. She couldn't feel the bone-chilling cold anymore. The snow didn't seem to affect her at all. Instead, the sunlight in the sky gave Tang Yun a warm and comfortable feeling. Was this the last radiance of the setting sun before death? Tang Yun thought about it. Many people would see their soul leave their body before they died, floating far away. That was what the ghost story said. Many people who were saved from the brink of death felt the same way before they died. But whether it was as comfortable as it was now, Tang Yun wasn't sure. She felt a sense of bliss in her heart, and this feeling grew stronger and stronger as time passed. In a trance, Tang Yun felt that the tall and majestic entrance to the valley suddenly became smaller and smaller, and the cliff on the other side of the valley became nothing in her eyes. At this moment, she seemed to have become the master of this place, the ruler of this place. Even the Grand Elder and the Valley Master, at this moment, Tang Yun's heart didn't have the fear from before. This was a very wonderful feeling. She was no longer that insignificant girl from before, but had become a powerful goddess. Tang Yun reached out her hand again. She could clearly feel that the snow valley's wind and snow seemed to have become part of her. She casually waved her hand, and the wind and snow followed her movements. Chapter 1801. Snowy Valley shocked Tang Yun, closed her eyes, enjoying this moment of warmth, this moment of happiness, this moment of beauty. It was said that people would feel happiness at the moment of death. This was probably what it felt like right now, right? Although Tang Yun closed her eyes, she seemed to be able to sense the situation around her. It was as if everything in this snowy valley was clearly in her mind. It was as if she was the valley, and the valley was her. The valley, the snow, the sunlight, they were all a part of her. With a wave of her hand or a step, the wind and snow around her would resonate with her. In the valley, there was an elder meeting. Today was the last day of Elder Zhang's shift. According to the rules, she had to summarize the work of the past month and hand it over to the next elder on duty. In the Snow Valley, there was a system where the elders were on duty. Every elder was on duty for a month to deal with the affairs of the valley. Only when the elders were unable to make a decision would they ask the Valley Master and the Grand Elder. In this way, not only did it reduce the workload of the Valley Master and the elders on the stage, it also allowed them to have enough time to cultivate. It also allowed the other elders who were not on duty to cultivate in peace. Of course, this was also the special situation of the Snow Valley, because the Snow Valley relied on the sale and exchange of heavenly treasures to survive. If it was any other ancient sect, even if the Palace Lord was fully in charge of the sect's affairs, he would not be as busy as the Snow Valley. After all, just like the Ice Palace, that didn't have any contact with the outside world. Even if it was a trial, it would only be held once every few years. Bingtang had to deal with some normal matters, but it didn't affect her training. This is what I've been dealing with for the past month. Speaking up to this point, Elder Zhang changed the topic and said to the Grand Supreme Elder, "Grand Supreme Elder, there's one more thing I want to report." "Speak." The Grand Elder said. "The sect master's sister hasn't left yet." Elder Zhang's face turned strange as he said that. How did Tang Yun survive until now? What? Hasn't left yet? The Grand Elder froze. She said that she would report to her after Tang Yun froze to death, but she was just saying it casually. From her point of view, Tang Yun wouldn't be able to stand the cold for 2 days and would leave on her own. Elder Zhang didn't report to her, meaning that Tang Yun didn't freeze to death and left. Otherwise, how could a normal person kneel in the snow for more than 10 days? Wouldn't she be dead already? Hearing that Tang Yun was still kneeling in front of the gate, the Grand Elder's expression became strange. She hasn't died yet? No. But according to the patrolling disciples, I'm afraid she won't be able to hold on for another 2 days. Since yesterday, she hasn't been eating anymore. Elder Zhang recounted everything that had happened in the past half a month. Elder Zhang could only use this opportunity to tell the Grand Elder about Tang Yin's situation. Even if he sympathized with her and wanted to help, he didn't have a chance. After he finished, Elder Zhang added, "Grand Elder, it seems like Tang Yin really wants to die. Even if we don't care about her, she is still the sister of the sect master of the Ice Palace, right? You're saying that she hasn't warmed up in the carriage for the past 15 days? She's been kneeling in the snow, eating and sleeping?" The Grand Elder was shocked. It's like this. The patrolling disciples saw it with their own eyes. Elder Zhang said, "Let's go, we'll go take a look." The Grand Elder frowned as if she was thinking about something. "Grand Elder, are you touched by her persistence?" Sydney was surprised. Before, the Grand Elder told her to cultivate her heart, but now she started to sympathize with Tang Yun. Touched? The Grand Elder shook his head. The Grand Elder's answer stunned Elder Zhang, Sydney, and the other elders. If he wasn't touched, then why would he go take a look? Was it really because of rock candy that he was afraid that Tang Yun would die here? 15 days, don't you think it's weird? The Supreme Elder looked at the puzzled crowd and said, "Before you advance to the heaven rank, without taking any energy pills, who could kneel in the snow for 15 days without dying?" Everyone shook their heads when they heard the Supreme Elder's words. Before advancing to the heaven rank, even an earth rank powerhouse wouldn't be able to kneel in a world of ice and snow for so long, let alone an ordinary person. Wasn't it like this during the Ice Palace trial? Other than Lin Yi, which of the mystic masters who came to participate in the trial didn't bring enough elixirs? Although energy pills weren't rare, they could replenish energy to fight hunger. Even Yu Bing was the same. Lin Yi was a special case. He had the jade pendant as a source of energy, so he didn't need those pills to maintain his stamina. It was also because of this reason that Aunt Qing and Bingtang thought it was weird. You mean to say her constitution? Elder Zhang's heart skipped a beat as he calmly asked. There's an old saying, something must be wrong. The Grand Elder said, since you can't do it, how did she do it? But, Grand Elder, didn't you check already? There's nothing special about her body. She doesn't even have a normaline body, let alone a fake ice-hard jade bone. Sydney asked curiously. That's right, she isn't. The Grand Elder said, if she really is like what she said, that she is Bingtang's sister, do you think Bingtang didn't check secretly? That's true, then you mean. Sydney didn't understand. The founder of the sect recorded 3 types of body types that are suitable for Snow Valley. The Grand Elder said slowly, among them, the rarest is the Een body type, which is the inheritor of the Ice Palace. However, the Een body type is more suitable for the Ice Palace, but for us, it's useless. It's not as suitable as the second type, the Ice-Hard Jade Bone type, because the founder of Snow Valley had this type of body type, so she created the emotionless chant to cultivate an ice heart. Although the Een body type has more cold energy than the Ice-Hard Jade Bone type, it can't be used to its full potential in Snow Valley. I'm afraid this is also why Bingtang rejected us, because it's more suitable for the inheritor of the Yin body type to stay in the Ice Palace. Hashtag. Chapter 1802. Inheritance of the Snowy Valley. Hearing the great elder's words, everyone nodded to show their agreement. The third kind of body constitution is the ordinary Yin body constitution. Little Lee and I have this kind of body constitution, but my body constitution is not as good as Little Lee's. It can only be said to be sloppy and ordinary. Being able to cultivate to the peak of heaven rank is purely by luck. I'm afraid it's impossible to cultivate to the peak of heaven rank and cross that legendary road. The great elder smiled bitterly and continued, "Now, let's talk about the Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution. Apart from a normal Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution, the Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution can also be divided into two branches. One is the fake Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution, which is the Rock Sugar body constitution. This kind of body constitution is not pure, but with the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, it can bring out the effect of the Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution. And the other is the hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution. When the great elder mentioned this kind of body constitution, Sydney's expression changed slightly. She thought of a possibility, and then her eyes widened in disbelief. But the other great elders were at a loss, because the only people who could come into contact with the ancestors' notes were those who had practiced the Heartless Secrets mental cultivation method. These people were the great elder, the Valley Master, and their direct disciples. As for the others, although they also practiced the water and fog mental cultivation methods, as long as they had an ordinary water body constitution, it was fine. There was no need for those special body constitutions, so it was impossible for these people to check the ancestors' notes. The hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution is a kind of body constitution that is purer than the Ice Heart Jade Bone body constitution. The ancestor had this kind of body constitution. The great elder explained slowly, this kind of body constitution, as the name suggests, is usually a hidden body constitution. Not to mention us, even the ancestor himself couldn't recognize it. This kind of physique could only be found by chance and not sought. Only after experiencing an extremely cold environment, when the body's potential reached its limit, could it suddenly be released. Back then, the founder of the sect also came to the Snow Valley. Under the harsh weather of the Snow Valley, at the moment when his life's potential was at its limit, he unintentionally activated his hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone physique. He comprehended the inheritance of the Snow Valley and discovered an ancient relic in the Snow Valley. Then he stepped on the path of cultivation and founded the Snow Valley sect. Before that, the founder was just an ordinary water cultivator from that place. His strength was only at the early phase of the Golden Class. That means Tangyan might be. Elder Zhang's eyes widened in disbelief. I'm just guessing and suspecting that ordinary people would have died a long time ago. Why didn't she die? The Supreme Elder said, as for whether it's this kind of physique, I really don't know. As soon as the Grand Elder's voice fell, he felt that something was wrong. The expressions of the other elders and Shui Li, the Valley Master, also changed slightly at this moment. Everyone felt a powerful fluctuation of true qi, and it was the kind of true strength. It was as if the entire heaven and earth spiritual qi in the Snow Valley had been mobilized at this moment. This feeling made everyone feel extremely shocked. Even when Sydney broke through to Heaven Stage and the Grand Elder broke through to the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage, they did not cause such a huge phenomenon. In the next moment, the bell of the Snow Valley was rung. This was the bell that the patrolling disciples would only ring when the Snow Valley encountered an emergency. However, this bell had not been rung for many years. This was because the things that the Snow Valley had encountered over the years had never been serious enough to ring the bell. Let's go. The Grand Elder shouted and flew out. All the elders in Sydney were also Heaven Stage experts. At this moment, they all followed the Grand Elder out of the meeting hall and came outside. In the Snow Valley, all the heaven and earth spiritual qi rushed towards one direction, including the cold wind and snow. At this moment, they also rushed towards that direction. This kind of strange situation, it was no wonder that the disciples in the Snow Valley would ring the bell. This was because the development of the situation had exceeded their imagination and control. When the Grand Elder saw this strange phenomenon, she immediately flew towards the center of the heaven and earth spiritual chi. Behind her, the others also followed closely. At this time, this phenomenon not only shocked the people of the Snow Valley, but also Chu Mingyao and Shu, because they saw that Tang Yun, who was originally covered in snow, suddenly stood up from the snow. The snow on her body disappeared in an instant. Tang Yun's body also emitted an untouchable holy light. At this moment, Tang Yun was like a snow fairy. Her body slowly left the ground and stretched her body under the sunlight. The snowflakes from the sky didn't fall on her anymore. Instead, they circled around her body and formed a beautiful whirlpool. Holy shit, Yun sis ascended in the day. Yushu looked at the clean Tang Yun in the sky and said in shock, Prophet Shu is really awesome. The colder Yun sis gets. Chu Mingyao was speechless after hearing Yushu's words. What nonsense, ascending in the day. Did she read too much Xinxia? But after Yushu said that the colder Yin got, Mingyao didn't get angry at all. This strange phenomenon, Chu Mingyao didn't know whether it was good or bad. She didn't know what would happen next, but no matter what, Tang Yun didn't seem to be frozen to death. This was what Mingyao was most relieved about. In a blink of an eye, the Grand Elder came to the center of the whirlpool formed by the heaven and earth spiritual chi. She looked at Tang Yun in the sky in shock and said after a while, There's no mistake. There's no mistake. It really is the hidden heart of Ice Jade Body. Really? Although Sydney and the elders were also shocked by the scene in front of them, after hearing the Grand Elder's words, there was a trace of joy in their tone. Of course it's true. The Grand Elder nodded. Plus, when she awakened the hidden heart of Ice Jade Body, she received the inheritance of the Snow Valley and understood the essence of the Snow Valley's heaven and earth spiritual chi. She can use the water element's heaven and earth spiritual chi as she pleases. This is the characteristic of the inheritor. Doesn't that mean that our Snow Valley also has an inheritor? Shueli was very excited after hearing this. All this time, the inheritor of the Snow Valley had been the most important thing to her and the elders. Especially after hearing that the Ice Palace had found an inheritor, the Snow Valley was even more anxious. This was why the entire Ice Palace was so shocked and excited. #target=_blank. Chapter 1803. Attitude change. Although the Ice Palace and Snow Valley's founders were from the same lineage, both of them were from that place, and both of them had flourished before. They were both one of the 4 ancient sects and one of the leading sects of the Sky Class meeting. But before the Sky Class meeting, without an inheritor, they would be on the path of decline. Seeing the Ice Palace pick up a treasure, Snow Valley could only feel envy and jealousy. But at this moment, everyone was truly happy and joyful. What the Ice Palace had, Snow Valley had too. Of course, they were too excited and never considered whether or not Tang Yun would stay and become a part of Snow Valley. Just as everyone was getting excited, Tang Yun naturally didn't know that she had attracted the attention of all the big shots of the Snow Valley. At this moment, with her as the center, more and more spiritual energy was being attracted to her, gathering around her body. Mingyao and Yushu naturally saw the Grand Elder and Elder Zhang, as well as Sydney and a few people they didn't know. They were worried about Tang Yun, not knowing what had happened to her. They wanted to get off the car to ask the Grand Elder and the others. May I ask what's going on? Did Yun sis ascend to the heavens? Yushu asked the Grand Elder. She was the oldest here and had the highest position. Naturally, Yushu would ask her first. The Grand Elder was startled. She was too excited before and didn't even notice Yushu's approach. Luckily, it wasn't an enemy. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The only thing that could make a Sky-class master so focused was the situation in front of them. Shadash, the Grand Elder, made a shushing gesture at Yushu, afraid that she would affect Tang Yun's acceptance of the inheritance. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Even if Xue Gu found a cultivator with a fake icy heart jade bone physique who had consumed the ice heart jade bone pill, or even found a cultivator with a real icy heart jade bone physique to accept the inheritance, they would have to go through arduous cultivation and personal enlightenment before they could accept the inheritance. One had to know that the inheritance was a type of resonance between the body and the Snow Valley. It didn't mean that one could accept the inheritance whenever and wherever they wanted. Although one's physique was suitable, one would definitely be able to receive the inheritance. However, the exact time of receiving the inheritance depended on one's own comprehension. It wasn't something that could be achieved just by thinking about it. Tang Yun's hidden ice heart jade bone physique was a rare occurrence. Only the founder of the sect had such a miraculous encounter, so the Grand Elder was afraid that Yushu would affect Tang Yun's acceptance of the inheritance. What's going on? Is Yun sis in danger? She's been kneeling for 15 days now. Can't you guys give us an ice spirit fruit? Yushu asked. You. The Grand Elder's eyes widened as he thought to himself. I told you not to speak, so why are you still speaking? She was so angry that she wanted to slap Yushu to death. If this ruined the inheritance, then the Grand Elder wouldn't even have time to cry. But then she remembered the relationship between Yushu and Tang Yun, and forcibly stopped the thought of killing Yushu. If she killed Yushu, then Tang Yun would become a huge enemy of the Snow Valley. She wouldn't stay in the Snow Valley anymore, and would go to the Ice Palace to train and come back for revenge. And so the Grand Elder suppressed her anger and spoke to Yushu in a low voice. She's fine. Don't say anything. I'll give you as many ice spirit fruits as you want. I'll give them all to you, but you have to shut up first. Oh, Yushu let out a breath of relief after hearing the Grand Elder's words. It was fortunate that the Grand Elder didn't slap Shu to death. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be the Ice Palace. That sect wouldn't just let this go. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was a little surprised at the Grand Elder's sudden change in attitude. She looked at the goddess like Tang Yun in the sky, deep in thought. The sun slowly moved towards the west and slowly set, forming a beautiful glow in the sky. Tang Yun bathed in the glow, her body glowing with a pure and bright light. No one moved. Shu heard that the Grand Elder could give Lin the ice spirit fruits, and she stopped as well. As far as she was concerned, the Grand Elder, the most powerful person in the sect, wouldn't lie. If she said that Tang Yun sis was fine, then she must be fine. The snowy valley at dusk was exceptionally beautiful. The white snow was reflected red, but no one was in the mood to appreciate this beautiful scenery. The gorgeous sunset seemed to attract everyone's attention. They tried their best to make the sunset more beautiful, but it was in vain, because everyone's eyes were on Tang Yun. And at this moment, Tang Yun was the most beautiful. The sun finally set. When the last ray of gold disappeared from the horizon, Tang Yun slowly landed on the ground. The spiritual energy around her gradually dissipated, and all the strange phenomena disappeared at this moment. Tang Yun slowly stepped on the snow and slowly opened her eyes. She murmured bitterly, "Am I dead? Is this heaven?" Pho! At this moment, the Grand Elder and the other elders, including Sydney, let out a long breath. It seemed that Tang Yun had finished accepting the inheritance. At this moment, she had understood the entire inheritance of the Snow Valley and had become the inheritor of the mist element. What do you think? What did you understand? The Grand Elder asked urgently. Tang Yun froze and looked at the row of people in front of her. There was the Grand Elder, Elder Zhang, and Sydney, as well as some people she didn't know. Most importantly, Meng Yao, Shu, and Lin Yi were all there. Were they all dead? This thought flashed through Tang Yun's mind, and she immediately shook her head to deny it. This was impossible. How could everyone be dead? Since everyone was alive, then she wasn't in heaven, which meant that she wasn't dead. I'm not dead. Tang Yin looked at everyone in front of her, surprised. Sister Yin, not only are you not dead, but you've ascended. You're so cold. Yushu said happily. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao frowned and stopped Yushu from talking nonsense. She turned to Tang Yin. Yin, you're not dead, but something strange happened to you. The Grand Elder should be able to explain it. Although Meng Yao could vaguely guess that what happened to Tang Yin had something to do with the Grand Elder's change of attitude, she wasn't sure what exactly happened. Hashtag. Chapter 1804. Snowy Valley. I didn't say anything. It's like I'm strong. Yushu said, Grand Elder? Tang Yin wanted to ask about the strange things that happened to her, but she suddenly remembered the purpose of her trip. She suppressed her curiosity and said, Grand Elder, Valley Master Shui, Elder Zhang, and all the elders, I beg you, please give me an ice spirit fruit first. I will definitely give you 1 billion yuan. Tang Yin didn't know what to say. With that, Tang Yin was about to kneel on the ground. After all, it was a rare chance for Tang Yin to meet the Grand Elder and Valley Master Shui. If she missed this chance, she wouldn't have a chance to talk to them anymore. Don't. The Grand Elder quickly held Tang Yin. She wanted Tang Yin to stay in Snowy Valley. How could she let Tang Yin beg for something so small? The Grand Elder supported Tang Yin and said generously, the ice spirit fruit is not a problem. But before that, let's talk about something else. Something else? Tang Yin paused, not understanding what he meant. Everyone, please follow us to the Snowy Valley's meeting hall. The Grand Elder was thinking about how to make Tang Yin stay, but it seemed like using the ice spirit fruit as the price to force Tang Yin to stay wasn't impossible. Although this was a bit despicable, it was different from the Ice Palace keeping Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao's body was special, and she needed to stay in the Ice Palace to be healed. Tang Yin, on the other hand, was different. She was here to ask for medicine, and 1 ice spirit fruit was only 1 billion. Using 1 billion to exchange for an heir of Snowy Valley, it was a great deal. But despicable was just despicable. The Grand Elder trained in heartless arts, and she had no sympathy. In her eyes, there were only benefits and strength. So, although she was polite to Tang Yin, that was only if Tang Yin could stay. If Tang Yin didn't agree, then there was no point in talking about the ice spirit fruit. Okay, Tang Yin nodded after some hesitation. She didn't know why the Grand Elder paid so much attention to her, but it must have something to do with what happened before. No matter what happened before, it was a good thing. The few of them arrived at the meeting hall of the Snow Valley. Under the astonished gazes of the Snow Valley disciples, the door of the meeting hall was tightly shut. One should know that the conference hall was a forbidden area for everyone other than the great elders, and valley masters. Now that these 4 strangers were allowed to enter the conference hall, it was a huge rumor. However, the Grand Elder did not feel that she was breaking any rules. If Tang Yin stayed in the Snow Valley, she could even give up the position of the Grand Elder to Tang Yin. In the eyes of these heaven-rank experts, these positions were nothing. Furthermore, at their level of cultivation, no one would be jealous of Tang Yin. This was because one's physique was not something that could be obtained through jealousy. At this level, everyone knew that if one's physique was not good, no matter how hard they trained, they would not be able to advance as fast as someone with a good physique. So if Tang Yin joined Snowy Valley, then no matter how strong she was, she would still be a part of Snowy Valley. They would only be happy. Of course, if she joined Ice Palace, then they would only be jealous of her. Everyone took their seats in the meeting hall. Tang Yin was a little fearful. This was the first time she had seen such a scene. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had seen a lot of things, so they weren't afraid. This old one is very clear about your goal. You want the ice spirit holy fruit? No problem. This old one can give it to you. Moreover, it won't cost you a single cent. I can also help you concoct a prescription that can be used together with the ice spirit holy fruit to cure your cultivation deviation. Thank you, Grand Elder. Tang Yin was a little surprised after hearing the Grand Elder's words, but she was still happy. After all, Lin, he could finally be saved. Don't thank me first. I'm not finished yet. The Grand Elder said faintly. What I'm agreeing to, there are conditions. Listen to them first, then decide if you want to trade or not. Grand Elder, please speak. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. There was no free lunch in this world, but what conditions did the Grand Elder want? He didn't even want money. You must stay in Snowy Valley. The Grand Elder looked at Tang Yun and said word by word, Stay here, become a practitioner, and I will fulfill my promise. Me? Stay here? Tang Yun wasn't too surprised after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She had already guessed something. If it wasn't for that strange phenomenon, the Grand Elder wouldn't even show up, let alone agree to these conditions. The reason why she agreed to these conditions was probably related to the phenomenon that appeared on her body. Could it be that she had unknowingly gotten some benefits? That's right, the Grand Elder said. You will stay in Snowy Valley and become a part of Snowy Valley. This is the condition. Grand Elder, you're saying that I can train? Tang Yun asked after some hesitation. That's right. The Grand Elder nodded. You will stay here to train, of course. Then, what level can I become? Tang Yun was a little moved. Yes, she was really moved. If she could become a master, then she wouldn't be a flower vase anymore. She wouldn't need Lin Yi to protect her all the time. At that time, she'd be able to be like Xiao Xiao, staying by his side forever. Only a practitioner could extend their lifespan. This had always been Tang Yun's dream. Level? Ha, at least Sky, class late phase peak. The Grand Elder smiled faintly. If possible, I will surpass this level and become an even stronger master. Sky class late phase peak. Tang Yun's mouth opened in shock. She had always told Lin Yi that she wanted to train, but she never thought that he would become a Sky class one day. At least Sky class late phase peak. But Tang Yun wasn't stupid. She hesitated and asked, Did something happen to me before? That's right. To tell you the truth, you have already accepted the inheritance of the Snow Valley and have become the inheritor of the Mist Element. The cultivation speed of an inheritor is extremely fast, and our Snow Valley will gather the resources of the entire valley to help you collect heavenly treasures to increase your strength. The Grand Elder said, Once you become a Sky Class late phase peak, your status will be the same as mine. You will be the Grand Elder of Snowy Valley. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1805. Tang Yun's face was a little flushed from the excitement. The Grand Elder's words shocked her. She didn't think that she'd become an inheritor. Didn't that mean she was on the same level as Xiao Xiao? If you agree, then our deal will go into effect immediately. The Grand Elder said, Otherwise, I won't stop you. Heart, Tang Yun smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder might have said that, but did she have a choice? What was her purpose in coming here? Now that there was a chance to save Lin Yi and train at the same time, why wouldn't she agree? How can I not agree now that things have come to this? Tang Yun looked at Meng Yao and Yushu. She didn't want them to leave, and it'd be hard to see Lin Yi again if she stayed in Snowy Valley. Who knew when they'd meet again? But at the same time, this was a rare opportunity. If Tang Yun missed it, she wouldn't be able to save Lin Yi. Even if that didn't happen, she wouldn't want to miss this opportunity. After all, becoming a practitioner had always been her dream. However, although the people present had a certain degree of confidence that Tang Yun would agree, after hearing Tang Yun's affirmative answer, their faces were still filled with joy, revealing a relaxed expression. Heart, since you've agreed, then I'll open up the Ancestral Hall and accept a disciple on behalf of the founder. The Grand Elder said, Your constitution is extraordinary, and only the founder has the same constitution as you. I'll accept a disciple on behalf of the founder, and while you're my disciple in name, you'll be the Grand Elder of Snowy Valley after you finish your apprenticeship. You'll be on the same level as me and Li. Tang Yun's face flushed red from excitement. She didn't expect that Xiao Xiao would get such good treatment in the Ice Palace, and she would get the same treatment in Snowy Valley. She couldn't help but ask, Grand Elder, may I ask, what constitution do I have? And what happened to me before? Didn't you check my constitution before? There's nothing special about it? Your physique is the hidden icy heart jade bone physique. Forget about me. Even if the founder of the sect was here, he might not be able to detect it. As the Grand Elder spoke, she told Tang Yun about Tang Yun's physique and what had happened before. Now that Tang Yun had agreed to join the Snow Valley, she wouldn't hide it from Tang Yun anymore. Tang Yun was shocked after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She didn't know that she had this kind of physique. It could only be activated under special circumstances. No wonder it wasn't detected before. If it wasn't for the coincidence, Tang Yun wouldn't have known that she had this unique physique for the rest of her life. Oh, I told you, Yin Yun Sis gets stronger the longer she freezes. Her special constitution will come out. Yushu said, Holy Church, you could say that. The Grand Elder nodded in agreement. Indeed, this sort of constitution can only be awakened in an environment as cold as this. Then, how long will it take for me to graduate? After that, can I go back? Tang Yin was most concerned about this question. If she stayed here, how long would it take for her to see Lin Yi? What do you mean by going back? The Grand Elder asked in return. How long will it take for me to see him freely? Tang Yin pointed at Lin Yi beside Yushu. See him? I'm afraid that's impossible. The Grand Elder said. Why? Tang Yun was shocked and quickly asked. I remember that you said that the two of you are lovers, right? The Supreme Elder asked. Yes. Tang Yun nodded fearfully. The icy heart jade bone cultivates an icy heart, and the mental cultivation method you cultivate is also called the Heartless Codex mental cultivation method. The so-called Heartless Codex mental cultivation method is heartless. If you have feelings in your heart, it will be a huge hindrance to your practice. The Great Elder said, so in order to let you smoothly cultivate to the peak of heaven rank late phase, I will give you a dose of medicine made with senseless grass, and from then on, you will forget him. In your heart, this person will no longer exist. Tang Yin couldn't help but exclaim after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She never thought that if she stayed here, she would never be able to see Lin Yi again, and she would have to use the grass of forgetfulness to forget Lin Yi. Don't be surprised. Before, I wasn't moved by your prayer at all. This is also because of the heartless formula. The Grand Elder said faintly. There are gains and losses. Think about it yourself. Tang Yun's face was filled with pain, and Meng Yao and Yushu were shocked as well. They didn't expect that in order to practice heartless arts, she needed to consume the grass of oblivion, and she had to forget about Lin Yi. To Tang Yun, this was an extremely painful thing. You should have felt it. Little Li and I have a kind of natural momentum that pushes people thousands of miles away. When you get close to us, you will feel a burst of chill. This is the ruthless formula. Highest Elder said. If the Grand Elder didn't mention it, Tang Yun wouldn't have noticed it. But now that the Grand Elder reminded her, Tang Yun remembered that from the first time she met them until now, there was a cold and unapproachable aura around them. This kind of aura made people not want to get close to them. They couldn't help but feel a sense of fear and distance. Can I not take it? Tang Yun asked hesitantly. Although she wanted to save Lin Yi, she didn't want to forget Lin Yi for the rest of her life. If she forgot Lin Yi, what was the point of her practice? Wasn't her biggest dream to become a practitioner so that she wouldn't be a burden to Lin Yi? You have emotions in your heart. If you don't take it, it's not impossible. But it will be very difficult to overcome the demons in your heart. If you are not careful, the emotions and the heartless will intertwine and affect each other. You will go crazy, the Grand Elder said. Even if you don't go crazy, it is still a very painful thing to restrain each other. Of course, you are Bingtong's sister. If you go crazy and ask her for a fire spirit's fruit, she will definitely give it to you. Tang Yun hesitated after listening to the Grand Elder's words. She knew that the Grand Elder wasn't trying to scare her, but it was the truth. At her level, it was impossible for her to lie to Tang Yun. Chapter 1806. From the looks of it, If he wanted to save Lin Yi, he would have to stay here. But if he stayed here, he might not be able to practice because of his heart's demon, or even go berserk. That was an outcome that no one wanted to see. Let me think about it. Can I? Tang Yin didn't know what to do. She could only choose to discuss it with Meng Yao and Yushu. Merciless heart, sure, but you only have 1 day to think about it, the Grand Elder said. What? Tang Yin paused. Your boyfriend can only last 1 or 2 days. If he doesn't get treated soon, then the fruit won't have any effect. The Grand Elder said. Then, can we give him the ice spirit fruit first? Tang Yun asked anxiously. Merciless arts, naturally, the Grand Elder said faintly. In my dictionary, there is no merciless. If you don't join Shui Gu, then there's no need to talk about it. Tang Yun was sorrowful. She wondered if she would become like the Grand Elder after practicing the merciless arts. At that time, even if Lin Yi saw her, he wouldn't like her anymore, right? After all, who would like a cold and emotionless person? The Grand Elder was a living example. There was a powerful cold aura around her that made people want to stay away from her. It made people not want to get close to her and want to stay far away from her. However, Elder Zhang, who had also practiced other water heart cultivation methods, was not the same. Moreover, he was very kind, which was completely different from Grand Supreme Elder and Shueli. Holy Hall, I'll give you an answer tomorrow morning. Is that okay? Tang Yun hesitated. It's okay. The Great Elder said, this is not a problem. In order to make you feel at ease, I can first inject a stream of cold air into his body to help you suppress the fire poison in his body. It will be enough to last until tomorrow night. Thank you, Grand Elder. Tang Yun felt relieved after hearing the Grand Elder's words, and her face showed gratitude. No need to thank me. It's just a deal, the Grand Elder said faintly. Tang Yun opened her mouth, but didn't say anything. The Grand Elder was this kind of person. She said it before, she was heartless. The Grand Elder stood up and walked in front of Lin Yi. He placed his hand on Lin Yi's meridians and channeled cold energy into them. Lin Yi's body temperature suddenly dropped. While Tang Yun was amazed, Shu also let out a sigh of relief. She didn't have to help Lin Yi lower his body temperature anymore. Holy Church, all right, there should be no problem before tomorrow night. After the Great Elder finished speaking, he turned to Elder Zhang and instructed, Elder Zhang, take them to the guest room to rest. Yes. Elder Zhang cupped his fists and said. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu brought Lin Yi and followed Elder Zhang back to the guest room. Elder Zhang bowed to them politely and was about to leave when Tang Yun stopped him. Elder Zhang, Miss Tang, is there anything else? Although Elder Zhang's attitude towards Tang Yun and the others was not bad, it was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with them now. But it was no wonder. If Tang Yun really stayed in the Snow Valley, she would become an existence similar to the Great Elder, becoming one of the 3 leaders of the Snow Valley. How could Elder Zhang not be polite? Elder Zhang, I want to ask, does the Heartless Arts really have to be heartless? Tang Yun didn't dare to ask the Grand Elder before, but she was more familiar with Elder Zhang now. It has always been like this. The highest elder thought for a moment, then nodded and said, those who have cultivated the heartless formula have always been lonely until they die, dedicating all their lives to the Snow Valley. No one has ever gotten married or had children. Although Tang Yun had guessed this result, she was still a little disappointed after hearing Elder Zhang's confirmation. Who created this heartless arts? What a scam! Miss Tang, please be quiet. Elder Zhang was startled and smiled bitterly. Miss Tang, the heartless spell is a mantra created by the founder of the sect. It is the treasure of the Snow Valley. Although you are someone that the Great Elder thinks highly of, it is inevitable that you will be punished. The founder? Tang Yin paused. The one who has the same body type as me. Yes. Elder Zhang nodded. The founder of the sect was enlightened here and discovered the ancient ruins. He combined the chant left behind in the ancient ruins and created the art of Heartless. I have to say, the founder was a powerful person. He was able to create an ancient sect with the strength of an early phase golden class. That's amazing. Tang Yun was impressed as well. Although she had the same body type, she wouldn't be able to create such a powerful technique if she was in his shoes. But Tang Yun didn't understand. The founder was so powerful. Why did he create the Heartless Arts? I'm not a practitioner, but from what I know, there are many powerful water and ice element techniques. Bingtang's sister's technique is also very powerful, but it won't affect her marriage. It's just that she can't lose her virginity before accepting the heritage. Elder Zhang sighed and said, "This will have to start from a legend. Although there are no detailed records in our Snow Valley's journal, but according to the word of mouth of the elders, there is a poignant love story." Love story? Tang Yun was surprised. She didn't think that the founder was a heartless person. There was love? That's right. Since you're about to become a disciple of the valley and the future Grand Elder, it's fine to let you know about it. The elders all know about it. Elder Zhang didn't try to hide it and said directly, "You should know that the Snow Valley and the Ice Palace belong to the same sect. The Snow Valley cultivates the fog-type mental cultivation method derived from the water type, while the Ice Palace cultivates the ice-type mental cultivation method derived from the water type. The founders of these two sects were actually a pair of senior and junior sisters." Tang Yun and the others widened their eyes at Elder Zhang's words. They didn't think that the Snow Valley and the Ice Palace had such a relationship. Although they are fellow disciples, and their relationship is quite good, they fell in love with the same man. This good thing has become a bad thing. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Therefore, the Ice Palace and the Snow Valley have a deep relationship. They support each other, but also compete and suppress each other. This is the situation caused by the two founders. Then they could both marry that man. One would be the main wife and the other the small wife. Wouldn't that be great? How stupid. Yushu said. Chapter 1807. Meng Yao and Tang Yun looked at each other. If it was that easy to solve the problem back then, would there still be any problems? As expected, Elder Zhang shook his head and said helplessly, "Although that's the case, this pair of senior and junior sisters are both proud people. They don't want to share their love with others. Perhaps it's because they are senior and junior sisters that they don't want to put down their pride and don't want to give in." The miss opened her mouth slightly, but she didn't know why, but she thought of herself. She had a feeling that Elder Zhang was implying something, but she knew that Elder Zhang wouldn't do that because he didn't know about her, Shu, and Tang Yun at all. Then, did she like Lin, or was she proud and didn't want to share with others? The thought made Meng Yao break out in a cold sweat. What was wrong with her heart? But before Meng Yao could think it through, Elder Zhang continued. Master Ice and Master Snow were that man's confidants back in the day, and that man didn't know how to choose when he was faced with two equally talented and beautiful girls. Chapter 1808. But at least we're happier than Master Snow and Master Ice back then. I'm very happy, and so is Xiao Xiao. Tang Yin shook her head firmly. So, I don't want to use that senseless grass, but if you don't use it, then there'll be a demon in your heart, and you'll go crazy. It'll be very difficult, and you'll be tortured by love. Elder Zhang said, so Master Snow made the senseless grass for her heir to use. Then Master Snow didn't use the senseless grass, but didn't she have the heartless formula too? Tang Yin asked, if she took the senseless grass, how could she still remember the grudges from back then? Elder Zhang paused for a moment before smiling bitterly. Ancestor Shui was a genius with a unique physique. She is not someone we can compare with. However, Elder Zhang suddenly stopped and looked at Tang Yin. He didn't know what to say. Yes, the founder of the sect had a unique physique, and Tang Yin was the same. This kind of hidden ice heart jade bone physique had never appeared since the founding of the Snow Valley. So, if Master Snow didn't need to use the senseless grass, then Tang Yin didn't need to either. However, Elder Zhang didn't dare to make any promises. He just advised, Miss Tang, think about it. You have mastered the heartless formula, and your whole body exudes an aura that makes people stay away from you. Even if he wakes up, will he still be with you? Look at Valley Master Shui and the Grand Elder. They're both like that, naturally giving off a sense of fear and respect. Tang Yin thought about it and went silent. Elder Zhang was right. This was what Tang Yin was worried about. With the heartless formula, would Linny still like her? Even if he still had feelings for her. After being with her for a long time, he'd naturally stay away from her. Tang Yin felt a little sad. Lin Yi could be saved, and she could become a practitioner, but she'd never be with Lin Yi again. Could this be fate? Master Snow and Master Ice were like this, and now it was the same for her and Xiao Xiao. Would the tragedy of so many years ago happen again? Or is this a law of cause and effect? All right, think about it yourself. I'll take my leave first. Elder Zhang had said what he needed to say, and the rest was up to Tang Yin to think about. It'd be great if she could figure it out, but there was nothing she could do if she couldn't. Looking at Elder Zhang's back, Tang Yin didn't say anything to stop him. There was no point for Elder Zhang to stay. He had already done what he could. Yao Shu, what should I do? Tang Yin hugged her head in pain as she looked at Lin Yi, her eyes filled with longing and longing. I don't want to forget him, I really don't. I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but I was happy, really happy. I want to remember him forever. Sigh. Meng Yao sighed. To be honest, she sympathized with Tang Yin, but at this moment, Tang Yin didn't have a choice. Either he stayed in the snowy valley to save Lin Yi, or he left the snowy valley and Lin Yi would be in danger. How about you don't use it? Yushu suggested carefully. Elder Zhang also said that with the heartless arts, would Lin Yi still like me? He might hate me and hide from me. If I don't use it, wouldn't it be even more painful? Tang Yin said hesitantly. Shu scratched her head. She didn't know what to say. The ancestors' heartless arts is such a trap. Meng Yao said. She wanted to harm others after she broke up with her love. You can't say that. Perhaps it was only under that kind of painful state of mind that the heartless formula could be created. It became the treasure of the Snow Valley. Tang Yin said, but she probably didn't think that this would happen, because all the people with this arts don't have a lover. They've been here since they were young, and they didn't have the chance to love, so to them, it's nothing. You're right. It's rare to see someone like you who didn't grow up. Meng Yao nodded. But you have such a strong body. No wonder you can withstand the cold. In the summer, your body is very cool, and you can lower Shu's temperature. Yeah, I'm the exact opposite of her. Tang Yin smiled. In order to lighten the atmosphere, she joked, Shu is the exact opposite of me. Could she be an inheritor? Who knows? Maybe he's the inheritor of the fire element. Huh, that's true. Shu is the exact opposite of you. She can withstand the heat, but she's afraid of it. You can withstand the cold, but you're afraid of the cold. Meng Yao was surprised to find this strange phenomenon. How? How is that possible? Yushu's face changed slightly. She returned to normal and said dumbly, how can it be so coincidental? If it's such a coincidence that all the people around Shieldbro are inheritors, wouldn't that be amazing? I'm a fire elemental, and Yun Yun Sis is an ice elemental. We can play ice and fire with Shieldbro. Haha, you can play with Xiao Xiao. As for me, Tang Yun smiled bitterly and thought of the heartless arts. Shu, what nonsense are you talking about? It seems like you're asking for a beating today. Meng Yao glared at Shu when she saw Tang Yun's sad face. This girl really knew how to rub it in. I'm not the one who said it. You guys are the one who said I'm a fire elemental. Yushu said, feeling wronged. Then you're fine now, aren't you? Shut up. Meng Yao said. Oh. Yushu shut her mouth obediently. No matter how Meng Yao and Yushu tried to persuade Tang Yun, they couldn't do anything about it. After all, if they let Tang Yun stay, it would be painful for her. If they didn't let her stay, what would happen to Lin Yi? So only Tang Yun could make this decision. No one else could interfere. One night passed just like that. Although Tang Yun had been hungry and tired for many days, after receiving the inheritance, it was as if she had been reborn. There was an indescribable aura around her, and even though she didn't sleep for the whole night, she didn't feel tired or sleepy at all. Instead, she was very energetic. The only regret was that her eyes were red, as if she had cried for a whole night. But she had finally made her final decision. Early in the morning, Grand Elder brought Elder Zhang and Sydney to the guest room where Tang Yun and the others were staying. Chapter 1809. Tang Yun wasn't in a hurry, but the Grand Elder, Sydney, and the others were. Greetings, Grand Elder, Valley Master, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Shu quickly stood up to greet them. You're welcome. The Grand Elder waved her hand. Tang Yun, have you thought it through and made a decision? Yes, I've thought it through and decided to stay in the Snowy Valley. Tang Yun used the word to show that she had made up her mind and was ready to become a member of the Snowy Valley. Ha ha ha, good, very good, very good. The Grand Elder said the word good 3 times in a row. One could imagine how happy she was. Although she was heartless, she wasn't heartless. Tang Yun staying here was a great thing for the Snowy Valley, so naturally, the Grand Elder was very happy. Congratulations, Sister Tang Yun. Shueli also congratulated him happily. From now on, you and I are both Supreme Elders, so you don't have to be so courteous anymore. In the Snow Valley, except for the Supreme Elders, you don't have to greet anyone else. And Tang Yun wasn't too happy about this glory that the other people of the Snowy Valley saw. It was obvious that she wasn't in a good mood. The Grand Elder also saw through Tang Yun's mood. He was afraid that Tang Yun would change her mind, so he directly took out a small bottle and handed it to Tang Yun. This is the medicinal liquid made from the senseless grass. Drip his blood into the bottle and drink it. When you wake up tomorrow, his memory will no longer be in your mind. Oh, Tang Yun responded and took the small bottle from the Grand Elder. We're preparing to open the Ancestral Hall. I want to accept you as a disciple on behalf of the founder of the sect. This is a big event for the Snowy Valley. We need to prepare in advance. I'll have Elder Zhang wait for you at the door. After you drink it, you can come out immediately. At that time, Elder Zhang will help you save Lin, Yi, and give you a prescription. The Grand Elder said. Okay. Tang Yun was almost jumping out word by word, but whether it was the Grand Elder or Sydney, they didn't care. It was normal for Tang Yun to be in a bad mood. The Great Elder could tell that Tang Yun was a little depressed, but she thought that it was normal. After all, Tang Yun was about to part ways with her lover. No one would be happy if they could never see each other again. However, the Grand Elder was confident that when Tang Yun woke up the next morning, her memory of Lin Yi would no longer exist. Ever since the medicinal liquid of the senseless grass was concocted, no one had taken it. Because apart from the founder of the sect, the Snow Valley had always looked for suitable orphans to train from a young age. Therefore, the Valley Lords of the Snow Valley all had the surname Shui. However, the formula was passed down by the founder of the sect, Ancestor Shui, so it couldn't be wrong. The Great Elder and Shueli turned around and left the room. Elder Zhang sighed and said to Tang Yun, Miss Tang, I'll be waiting for you at the door. You can bid farewell to me one last time. Okay. Tang Yun nodded to Elder Zhang gratefully. If Elder Zhang didn't leave, Tang Yun would have to find an excuse to let him leave first. But since Elder Zhang took the initiative to say goodbye, Tang Yun's wish was fulfilled. Elder Zhang quickly walked out of the room and closed the door, leaving the last bit of time for Tang Yun and the others. Tang Yun, sis, have you really made up your mind? Yushu looked at Tang Yun's determined gaze and felt her heart ache. She used to hate Tang Yun and curse her, but now she only felt sympathy and reluctance to part with Tang Yun. Yes, I have decided. Tang Yun nodded and said firmly and solemnly. But won't you be in pain in the future? Meng Yao was also worried. Didn't they say that if you have feelings in your heart, you will go crazy? Since I have the hidden ice heart jade bone constitution, which is very rare, then why would the people of Shuegu let me go crazy? Tang Yun would sometimes act shamelessly. They want me to inherit the power of Sky-class late-phase peak, so they will definitely try their best to help me solve all kinds of problems. That's true. Plus, you are Bingtong's sister, Xiao Xiao's good sister. Even if Shuegu can't do anything, the Ice Palace won't just let you go crazy. They will definitely provide you with the fire spirit's fruit. Meng Yao nodded. Yeah, if that's the case, then what do I have to be afraid of? Tang Yin smiled. The only thing I'm worried about now is Lin Yi sighed. Meng Yao and Yushu sighed at the same time and fell into silence. Before, the girls were most worried about Lin Yi. If Lin Yi woke up and saw Tang Yin with heartless arts, would he still like her? Even if he did like her, how could he accept that natural aura around Tang Yin that made him want to stay away from her? Plus, Tang Yin would have already forgotten about Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi still liked Tang Yin, it would only cause him more pain. But since Tang Yin had made her decision, the one who would be in pain would be Tang Yin, not Lin Yi. She would always have Lin Yi in her heart. So now, Meng Yao and Yushu didn't have to worry about Lin Yi anymore. On the other hand, Tang Yin was worried about Lin. We will take good care of him. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yin and said solemnly, I will guarantee with my life that I will take care of him for you. Thank you. Tang Yin smiled. After getting Meng Yao's promise, she finally let go of the worry in her heart. This is what we should do. We will always be good sisters. Meng Yao said, Okay, let's not talk about it anymore. Time is limited. It won't be fun if the people from Snowy Valley find out. Tang Yin smiled bitterly and quickly opened the small bottle containing the senseless grass. Then she put her finger in her mouth and bit down hard. Actually, Tang Yin didn't know where she got the courage to bite her finger, but after everything was done, it was natural. No matter how painful her finger was, it didn't hurt her heart. Tang Yun's finger was bleeding, but wasn't her heart bleeding as well? However, she had no other choice. This was the only big thing she could do for him, and it was also the last thing she could do for him. Yin sis, are you in pain? Why are you crying? Yushu couldn't help but ask when she saw the tears in Tang Yun's eyes. Shu, Meng Yao kicked Yushu. How can you be so heartless? How painful can your finger be? She just doesn't want to, oh. Yushu nodded and didn't say anything else. Tang Yin slowly dripped her blood into the small bottle in her hand. Chapter 1810. That's right, it was her own blood. According to the Grand Elder, she should have dripped Lin Yi's blood into the bottle of forgetful grass and let Tang Yin drink it to forget about Lin Yi. However, Tang Yin did the exact opposite. This was the decision she made after hesitating for a whole night. Holy Hall let her bear all the pain herself. Let Lin Yi forget about her happily, forget about the past. Even if she became heartless in the future, Lin Yi wouldn't feel any pain or discomfort, because at that time, Lin Yi wouldn't know who Tang Yin was anymore. Yin, you really won't regret it. Meng Yao saw Tang Yun's actions, and her heart ached. This was separating a pair of lovers. If it was the old Meng Yao, she might be happy, but at this moment, she didn't feel happy at all. She would rather be the one staying here. Since I've decided, I won't regret it. Tang Yin picked up the mixture of her blood and forgetful grass and came in front of Lin Yi. She slowly raised her hand and helped Lin Yi up. She slowly poured the liquid into Lin Yi's mouth. Tang Yun's body trembled because of excitement and nervousness. Tears blurred her eyes. An old song sounded in Tang Yun's ears. Don't talk about separation so easily. Since separation, don't sigh anymore. The sweetness of the past only belongs to yourself. The cold heart is still beautiful. Walking in the snow and looking for plum blossoms. Bid farewell to winter. Find a new me to replace the old me. Don't talk about separation so easily. Since separation, don't be afraid of loneliness. Yesterday's wind and rain have passed. Cherish the dreams of the future even more. New smiles, new thoughts. Find a dawn to walk out of yourself. When the last drop of the liquid flowed into Lin Yi's mouth, Tang Yun's hand trembled slightly. The bottle fell to the ground and shattered. At this moment, Tang Yun's heart was broken. She lowered her head, her heart in a mess. But when she raised her head again, her face was full of smiles as she looked at Meng Yao and Shu. All right, Lin Yi, I'll leave him to you from now on. In the future, you'll be his first and second wives. Meng Yao forced a smile. Tang Yun's joke wasn't funny at all. Even Shu, who always wanted to be a small wife, didn't laugh. All right, it's time for Elder Zhang to treat Lin Yi. With that, Tang Yun bowed deeply to Meng Yao and Shu. Lin Yi, I'll be counting on you guys from now onwards. Please tell the people around him not to mention me in front of him. Meng Yao and Yushu nodded silently. Although Tang Yun's request made them uncomfortable, if they didn't do as Tang Yun said, it would be a waste of Tang Yun's effort. Tang Yun was afraid that Lin Yi would see her become heartless, so she gave the forgetful grass to Lin Yi first. This was to prevent both of them from hurting each other even more in the future. Elder Zhang. Tang Yun opened the door and saw Elder Zhang standing far away at the corner of the wall. Perhaps it was to avoid arousing suspicion, but he didn't stand too close. Holy hell, in fact, with Elder Zhang's eyes and ears as a sky class, if he wanted to eavesdrop, he would be able to hear it no matter how far he stood. However, Elder Zhang didn't have the intention to eavesdrop. In his eyes, Tang Yun and the others were his granddaughters, and Tang Yun was saying goodbye to Lin Yi for the last time. They would definitely say some sweet nothings. No matter how thick Elder Zhang's skin was, he wouldn't eavesdrop on these things. Miss Tang, have you taken the forgetful grass? Elder Zhang asked. Yes. Tang Yun nodded. You can help save Lin Yi now. Good, that's how it should be. Elder Zhang nodded. The ice spirit fruit is ready. It was just picked. The fresher it is, the more obvious the effect is. Thank you, Elder Zhang, Tang Yun said gratefully. Elder Zhang didn't say anything else and quickly walked into the room. At this time, the disciple who had gone to pick the ice spirit fruit returned. He handed a small box to Elder Zhang and left. He didn't dare to stay for even a second longer. As for Elder Zhang, he quickly opened the small box and took out a translucent, white, and flawless fruit that was similar to a ginseng. The fruit's material was like a transparent jelly, but it wasn't soft. Everyone present felt an incomparably refreshing aura, and their minds were refreshed. What a refreshing smell. Tang Yun's senses and control over the cold air were much sharper than normal people's ever since she'd gone through the mutation. The sacred fruit of ice spirit grows under the layer of ice in extremely cold, snowy valleys. For cultivators who practice the extreme Yang Heart Sutra and Fire Heart Sutra, is a must-have for curing qi deviation. As Elder Zhang explained, his hands did not stop moving. Like a magic trick, he quickly cut the ice spirit fruit into pieces. He did not have a knife in his hand. It was obvious that he was using his Zhen Qi to cut the fruit. The fact that he was able to do this shocked Tang Yun and the others. After cutting the fruit, Elder Zhang put it into Lin Yi's mouth. His movements were as smooth as water. After putting the fruit into Lin Yi's mouth, Elder Zhang sent a stream of cold air into Lin Yi's body. After that, he said, "All right, it's done. He's fine now." "Thank you, Elder Zhang." Tang Yun heard Elder Zhang's words and sighed in relief. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, let out a sigh of relief as well. The Grand Elder had injected cold air into Lin Yi's body to suppress the fire poison, but Lin Yi's complexion was still very pale. But after eating the fruit today, his complexion was slowly turning back to normal. However, although Lin Yi's face returned to normal, he didn't wake up. This made Tang Yun and the others quite confused. However, Elder Zhang was the first to answer Tang Yun's question. "I have a prescription here. Brew the medicine according to the method and method. He'll wake up in a month." Another month. Tang Yun was a little disappointed, but happy at the same time. If Lin Yi woke up now and saw her, how would she deal with him? The Grand Elder and Elder Zhang both said that after drinking the forgetfulness grass, he would forget about his lover when he woke up. Could he have forgotten about himself? So, Tang Yun was a little worried. Chapter 1811. 1 month is already very short for a cultivator who has suffered from qi deviation. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Plus, I said 1 month at most. Although the fruit is a miraculous medicine, The time it takes to wake up depends on the practitioner's constitution. St. Hall. So that's how it is. Tang Yin nodded and said, then the ingredients on the prescription. Those are just normal ingredients. You could buy them all at the pharmacy. Elder Zhang said. Meng Yao nodded. It seemed like she was the only one who could take on this mission. Meng Yao took the prescription from Elder Zhang and put it away solemnly. This was something that could save Lin Yi's life, after all. She couldn't afford to neglect it at all. Miss Chu, Miss Chun, you can leave the valley now. Elder Zhang said to Meng Yao and Yushu. The ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony are about to begin. You're not from the valley, so you can't stay here. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yun and the unconscious Lin Yi. She didn't know what to say. Elder Zhang, can I send them off? Tang Yun knew that since the decision was made, she couldn't change it. She could only accept it. However, she could fight for it. She could walk with Yao Yao, Shu, and Lin Yi and never see them again. St. Hall, all right. Elder Zhang was a kind man. As long as Tang Yun's request wasn't too difficult, he would agree. Meng Yao and Yushu packed their bags. Yushu was the one who carried Lin Yi here, but now there were disciples waiting at the entrance with a stretcher. Yushu didn't need to carry Lin Yi anymore. They would help carry Lin Yi out of the valley and onto the car. It wasn't a long journey from the guest room to the car outside the valley, but it seemed especially short under Tang Yun's feet. Even though you've escorted me for 1,000 miles, we still have to part ways. Tang Yun's eyes stared at Lin Yi's face blankly, a hint of reluctance in her clear eyes. I want to see your face clearly. Perhaps this separation will be eternal. But at this moment, I'm very proud and happy. I'm finally no longer that helpless vase. I won't be a burden to you anymore. When we meet again, I can proudly tell you that I can finally help you. But at that time, you might not remember me anymore. There was a smile on Tang Yun's face, but she couldn't stop her tears from covering her eyes. Her vision was foggy, as if she'd suddenly returned to her 12th year of high school, the small path where she met Lin Yi, the first date under the shade of the tree, the romantic night in West Star Village. These would become memories forever, buried in the deepest part of her memories, memories that belonged only to her. The person in his memories would also no longer remember this sweet past that no one cared about anymore. Tang Yun twirled the diamond ring on her finger. Her face was filled with determination. Yao Yao, Shu, I'll leave Lin Yi in your hands. Take good care of him for me. From now on, there will be no Tang Yun in his life. Meng Yao pursed her lips and listened to Tang Yun's words. Tears flowed down her eyes uncontrollably. She used to hate Tang Yun, but now she really didn't want to part with Tang Yun. She really didn't want to. Yun sis. I'm so touched. Yushu also cried at this moment. She realized that Tang Yun's position in her heart was no less than Meng Yao's. She knew that this separation might be forever. Tang Yun was different from Xiao Xiao. Her heartless arts made it impossible for her to return to Lin Yi's side. However, the three of them didn't say it too clearly. It was enough for them to understand each other's meaning. They didn't need to be too obvious. After all, the forgetfulness herb was for Lin Yi, not Tang Yun. They were afraid that Elder Zhang would find out. St. Hall, people have their ups and downs. The moon waxes and wanes. It's hard to be perfect. Elder Zhang walked over and sighed. You win some, you lose some. Let's go back. Tang Yun nodded and looked at Lin Yi one last time. Then, she turned around and walked towards Snowy Valley. Elder Zhang sighed again and quickly followed. Only Meng Yao, Yushu, Lin Yi, and a few disciples from Snowy Valley were left here. Please go back. After the disciple put Lin Yi in the car, he said politely to Meng Yao and Yushu. Although his tone was polite, there was an irresistible majesty to it. Let's go. Meng Yao pulled Shu, who was staring at Tang Yun's back in a daze. Yushu nodded and got in the car with Meng Yao. The sound of an engine sounded, and the car started smoothly. This car had been specially modified by Tian Long, and there was no need to worry about it starting in the snow and ice. Meng Yao and Yushu, however, weren't in the mood to think about the car at this moment. Their hearts were all heavy. Their destination was West Star Village. This time, They had to go back and tell old Lin about it. Once they were done, they would go back to Songshan. Not far from the carriage was the snowy valley. It was bustling with noise and excitement. The annual sacrificial ceremony was held earlier than usual. This time, the snowy valley held the ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony at the same time to show how much they valued Tang Yun. With Tang Yun's physique, even the great elder didn't dare to call himself her master or inheritor. She walked on a different path of cultivation. In Tang Yun's path of cultivation, the great elder could only help and guide her. Most of the time, Tang Yun had to comprehend on her own because her physique was something that even the great elder didn't have. So, the grand elder accepted her as a disciple under the name of the founder. The main character of this worship ceremony, Tang Yun, was standing on the stage quietly. There wasn't a trace of a smile on her cold face. She didn't look happy at all. However, no one dared to question her. Even the Grand Elder thought that Tang Yun's personality changed after consuming the forgetfulness grass. It was an honor to be the center of attention. At this moment, Tang Yun was like the ruler of the snowy valley. Everyone was respectful to her. Even the Grand Elder and Sydney were polite to her. However, Tang Yun wasn't happy at all. She wanted Lin Yi to see how she looked right now. She didn't have to hide behind him anymore. She could hold up half the sky for him. But this wish would never come true. Chapter 1812. Not long after Meng Yao and Yushu left, another car drove out from the valley as well. It was to pick up Tang Yun's parents and Xiaoming. This was also Tang Yun's idea. Not only would she miss her parents in Songshan, but Lin Yi might meet them. Tang Yun was afraid that her parents would spill the beans in front of Lin Yi, especially her mother. Tang Yun was really worried. That was why after Meng Yao left, she asked the Snowy Valley to send people to pick them up. With Tang Yun's current position, even if she brought 3 idlers to the Snowy Valley, no one would dare say a word. Dark Palace. The Dark Shadow Group didn't get any information about the tourists, but they did get news that worried the Palace Master One, heir. Chu Pingzhan got into a car accident, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. He was in the intensive care unit of a hospital, and he was still in critical condition. When Elderly told Wan about this, Wan face turned pale. How could he have gotten into a car accident? The investment failed, the company went bankrupt, and it was said that he committed suicide. Elderly said as he told the Palace Master Wan about what happened. The investment failed. Even if it failed, he wouldn't commit suicide. Pingzhan isn't a sore loser. Why would he commit suicide? Wan didn't believe the news. Plus, there's Yao Yao. He hasn't even seen me yet. Why would he commit suicide? There were witnesses who said that he committed suicide, that he hit the car himself. Elderly sighed. That person, wasn't he lying? Wan still didn't believe that Pingzhan would commit suicide. Not only the eyewitness, the entire incident was recorded on the dashcam of the car that caused the accident. This is the key. Our people have also seen this video. Son-in-law's eyes were lifeless and filled with despair. It should be the eyes of a person who committed suicide. Elderly smiled bitterly and said, although I also don't believe that young master would do such a stupid thing, but this is the truth. Why did his company go bankrupt? Is someone trying to kill him? Wan still didn't believe that Chu Pengzhan had committed suicide. I'm not sure if someone is trying to harm him. I can send someone to investigate, but we must hide it from the Grand Elder. Elderly said carefully. However, this isn't the main point. The most important thing right now is how to get the son-in-law out of danger. Great Cyclic Pill and Meridian Opening Pill. Palace Lord Wan was slightly taken aback. The Great Cyclic Pill and the Meridian Opening Pill were pills for cultivators to consume. One was a pill that could extend one's life when one's injuries were extremely severe, while the Meridian Opening Pill was a pill that could repair damaged meridians, bones, and internal organs. Takidara, but it wasn't just for practitioners. Normal people could use it as well, and Pengzhan's current condition required him to take a great recovery pill first. followed by the meridian opening pill. These two pills, however, were quite expensive. The meridian opening pill was a little lacking, but the great recovery pill was something even the Sky Elixir sect didn't have many in stock. Not only was it difficult to concoct a great recovery pill, but it also required very rare treasures. It was only natural that it was priceless. And so, Palace Lord 1 had a bitter expression on her face. The relationship between the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect wasn't good at all. They wouldn't even be able to get half a normal pill from the Sky Elixir sect, much less a great recovery pill. The Dark Palace had their own refiners, but they were only at the first level of the golden class. They could barely make the meridian opening pill, but the great cyclic pill was out of the question. But even if it was the meridian opening pill, one thought that the Grand Elder would be the first to object if she asked for it for Pingzhan, wouldn't he? With that thought, Wan Er's eyes dimmed. I'll try my best. Elderly understood what Wan meant, but he didn't have the confidence to ask for these pills. He was an elder of a sect, but it could be said that the rarity of the Dark Palace's pills was even higher than those of the hidden houses, since the Sky Elixir sect would sell a batch of pills that weren't too rare in the public auction every year. But the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect had a tense relationship, and the Dark Palace couldn't bring themselves to bid on the auction. With the Dark Palace's identity, they naturally wouldn't do something like ordering other hidden houses to bid for the pills. Meng Yao and Yu Shu, on the other hand, didn't run into any more danger on the way back, and the robbers didn't show up again. They had to find their way there, but they were familiar with the way back. After a few days of hard work, they finally made it back to West Star Village. But, although Lin Yi's problem was solved, the Miss and Shu weren't happy at all. The cost of Lin Yi's recovery was too heavy. They went with 4 people, but came back with 3 people. One of them had to stay in Snowy Valley, and they might not be able to meet again. Old Lin's heart sank when he saw Meng Yao and Shu getting out of the car, but Tang Yun wasn't there. Mo Kongwen had already warned him about this, but seeing it happen now, Old Lin still couldn't accept it. Yao Yao Shu, where's Yun Yun? Old Lin couldn't help but ask. She stayed in Snowy Valley. Meng Yao's face didn't look too good as well. She was the only one who didn't come back. Stayed in Snowy Valley? What do you mean? Old Lin asked in a low voice, looking at Mo Kongwen with a strange expression. Meng Yao couldn't hold back her tears at the mention of Tang Yun, and this made Old Lin even more worried. Could it be that something bad happened to her? Old Lin asked with a serious face. No. According to my guess, Tang Yun stayed in Snowy Valley. Mo Kongwen looked at Meng Yao and Yu Shu and asked. He had already guessed something from their expressions. In fact, from the moment Tang Yun left the West Star Village, Mo Kongwen had already predicted her fate. However, he was powerless to change it. He didn't have the ability to defy the heavens and change her fate. He had already seen through Tang Yun's fate, stayed in Snowy Valley? Old Lin was startled. Yes, Yin Yun stayed in Snowy Valley. Meng Yao sobbed and told Old Lin and Mo Kongwen what happened. Even though Mo Kongwen had guessed Tang Yun's fate, he still opened his mouth wide when he heard that Tang Yun accepted the inheritance in Snowy Valley. It's the beginning of the month. Readers reading on their phones. Please vote for the Fishman. Thank you. Chapter 1813. She could accept the inheritance? One had to know that even a suitable inheritor needed a process and opportunity to understand and accept the inheritance, but Tang Yun completed the process as soon as she went to Snowy Valley. They didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. As for Tang Yun giving the forgetful herb to Lin Yi, Old Lin and Mo Kongwen were touched. It wasn't easy for this girl to go this far for her lover. If that's the case, then follow Tang Yun's wishes and keep this a secret forever. Don't let Lin Yi know about it. Old Lin shook his head lightly and sighed. Or else, it would be a waste of Tang Yun's effort. Both of them would be in extreme pain. Meng Yao and Yu Shu nodded after listening. Yes, Tang Yun didn't use the grass of forgetfulness. She would definitely be in extreme pain and there was even a risk of chi deviation. If Lenny knew about this and saw Tang Yun, who had a heart of ice, he would probably be in even more pain. The only way to get the best of both worlds was to never let Lin Yi know about this. It was a little unfair to both Tang Yun and Lin Yi, but there were some things that they had no other choice. After such a long delay, you guys should be starting school soon, right? Old Lin asked. Not really. We applied for East Ocean Industry University. The new students start school in October. Meng Yao said, of course, it's another matter if we can't get in. That's good. Meng Yao said that. But old Lin naturally wouldn't worry about Meng Yao not getting in. Not to mention the fact that Meng Yao's grades were there for all to see. Even if she couldn't get in, with Peng Zhan's power, she could still go to school. But it's about time. You guys should go back now, right? Yeah. Other than bringing General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig away, we're also here to say goodbye to you. Meng Yao said, a little sad. Grandpa Lin, we'll definitely come back to visit you when we're free next holiday. It doesn't matter if you visit me or not, but when you're free, go visit Tang Yun behind Lin Yi's back. She'll be very happy, you guys. Old Lin said, yes, I will. Meng Yao nodded. All right, let's not talk too much. Rest here tonight and go on your way tomorrow. Old Lin said, okay, we'll go say goodbye to Air Gooden. Also, Grandpa Lin, can you leave us your contact? Meng Yao said, Lin, he had old Lin's number before, so she didn't record it down. If Lin, you didn't wake up, she might have to trouble old Lin again. Old Lin said, it's in Lin Yi's phone. I'll go get it for you. Old Lin said, Lin, he didn't bring his phone, nor did he turn it on. He left it in his room. This was the last night Meng Yao and Yushu would spend in West Star Village. It had been a long journey, but the two didn't feel too tired. They stood in the familiar courtyard, and it was as if they had returned to that night when they first arrived at West Star Village, when they were eavesdropping on Lin, Yi, and Tang Yun's whispers under the fence. The scenes from that time were right in front of their eyes, but so far away. Things were the same, but people weren't. Shoo, let's go rest. We still have to get up early tomorrow. Meng Yao sighed and pulled Shu's hand into the room. Yao sis, do we still have a chance to live with Tang Yun sis in the future? Yushu asked. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows what will happen in the future? Meng Yao suddenly smiled. You're asking me something you don't even know about, Prophet Shu? Prophet Shu isn't omnipotent. Yushu mumbled to herself as she followed Meng Yao back into the room. But if Meng Yao and Yushu were more attentive, they would realize that they were the main characters tonight, and the eavesdroppers were old Lin and Mo Kongwon. You said that someone will be sacrificed. Tang Yun will be staying in Snowy Valley, right? Old Lin asked. Probably. Some things can't be predicted in detail, and this is the best ending. Mo Kongwon said. Old friend, it's time for you to leave, right? Old Lin asked. Yeah, it's time for me to go back now. Mo Kongwon said. You still haven't understood the practitioner's arts he left behind. Old Lin asked. It's not that easy. Mo Kongwon smiled bitterly. You know that the chi here is very thin. Other than Lin Yi's jade pendant, I didn't go to that place back then. It's so hard to break through. You're right. Let's work hard together. I need to take that step if I want to leave Star West Village. Old Lin sighed. The next morning, Meng Yao drove Yushu, Lin Yi, Wei Wu, and Skybolt Pig out of Star West Village. She'd arrived in front of all the villagers, but Meng Yao kept a low profile when she left, avoiding the crowded areas and going on the road quietly. On the way, Meng Yao wanted to contact her father and tell him that she and Shu were back, and that Peng Zhan was out of danger as well. She wanted to let him know that she and Shu were back, and that Peng Zhan was out of danger as well. Meng Yao didn't think much of it when the call didn't go through, thinking that her father was in a meeting or in the underground parking lot. But it had been so many days, and Peng Zhan's phone was still turned off when she called again, hours after that. Meng Yao was starting to panic, and so she dialed Faubert's number, but it got through this time. Miss Chu. Faubert picked up quickly, but his voice sounded a little low. Is it you? It's me, Faubert. What's wrong? Your voice sounded a little hoarse. Are you sick? Meng Yao paused, but didn't mind. Where's my dad? Why is his phone off? Mr. Chu. Faubert hesitated. He thought that Meng Yao was alone, and it might affect her mood if he told her about Peng Zhan's car accident. It'd be even worse if she got into trouble because of her impatience. And so, Faubert said, he's very busy these few days with that big project. Miss Chu, is there anything I can help you with? Chapter 1814. I see. Ming Yao didn't suspect anything. Faubert, tell Dad that we're almost home. It's about a day's journey. Ming Yao said, All right, I understand, Miss Chu. At this point, Uncle Fu paused for a moment. Give me a call when you're back. All right, I got it. Ming Yao hung up the phone, relieved as she continued her journey. After another day of driving, Ming Yao finally saw the Songshan toll station sign. Both Ming Yao and Yu Shu let out a sigh of relief as they exited the toll station. They were finally back. This trip to Star West Village wasn't as happy as they had imagined, but they experienced a lot of things. The two had matured quite a bit after this experience. We're home. It feels so good, Yu Shu said sincerely. Yeah, I'm finally home. Ming Yao drove the car back to the Sea View Bay Villa area with ease, but the scene in the house shocked her the moment she opened the door. In the living room, there were several bags and luggage piled up in a mess. If it weren't for the familiar furniture, Ming Yao would have thought that she had entered the wrong house. Yao, did we get a burglar? Yu Shu said, surprised. Burglar? We have more things now, not less. What kind of burglar would put things in someone else's house? Ming Yao glared at Yu Shu with a bitter smile as she walked over and opened the bags and luggage. She was even more surprised after opening them. Shu, look, aren't these your things? Yeah, these are my clothes. Who moved them into the villa for me? Yu Shu was curious. Weren't these things supposed to be in her villa? Why were they moved into Ming Yao's villa? Wait, let me ask Faubert. Ming Yao took out her phone and called Faubert. Miss Chu, you're back. Faubert picked up quickly. Yeah, Faubert, I'm back. But why is the villa so messy? It seems like all of Shu's things were moved in. Ming Yao asked, confused. Miss Chu, wait for me. I'll tell you when I get back. Faubert hesitated. Some things were better said in person. Yeah, okay. Ming Yao didn't realize at all that her family was about to be destroyed. Faubert didn't say anything else as he looked at Peng Zhan's body covered in tubes and wires through the ICU window. His eyes reddened as he turned around and left. The car recorder proved that Peng Zhan had committed suicide, and the driver wasn't responsible for the accident. The company that the driver worked for only gave Faubert a few tens of thousands of yuan as consolation money, and the rest of the medical expenses were naturally covered by Faubert himself. But now that Peng Zhan Industries was in the hands of someone else, Peng Zhan and Lin Yi's shares were all under in Ming Yue's name. The small shareholders who used to follow Faubert around were now like a completely different person. Peng Zhan had been hospitalized for a long time, and other than a few old business partners who came to visit him with some consolation money, the small shareholders were all busy sucking up to the new chairman. No one came to visit Peng Zhan at all. What surprised Faubert was that Guangbua, on the other hand, brought his son Xie Jinlong to the hospital with 200,000 yuan in one go. Faubert couldn't help but sigh at the fact that a shareholder who was kicked out of the company could do something like this. It was quite rare. Guangbua, on the other hand, had made it very clear that his son was saved by Lin Yi, and that was more than enough to offset any other grudges. This 200,000 yuan was also for Lin Yi's sake. Faubert, on the other hand, had saved up some money over the years. After all, he was following Peng Zhan, and he didn't have to pay for his living expenses himself. Other than the medicine he used, the rest of his salary was saved up. Guangbua's 200,000 yuan was enough to cover the surgery and medical expenses. But looking at the daily medical bills, Faubert didn't know what to do. The surgery fees were settled for now, but where was he going to pay for Peng Zhan's medical expenses in the future? Faubert didn't even want to spend money on public transportation. Right now, Faubert was trying his best to save every cent he had. After all, he had no source of income, and the more he spent, the less money he had. Fortunately, Faubert was a runner, and his walking speed wasn't tiring. He arrived at Meng Yao's villa in no time. But when Meng Yao opened the door, she was surprised to see Faubert walking in without a car. Faubert, you didn't drive? Miss Chu, let's talk inside. Faubert smiled bitterly. Meng Yao was confused, but she still let Faubert into the villa. When the three of them sat down on the sofa, Faubert noticed that Lin, Yi, and Tang Yun were missing. He couldn't help but ask, "Where's Lin, Yi, and Tang Yun? They're not here." Meng Yao and Yushu looked at each other, a bitter smile on their faces. Meng Yao didn't want Uncle Fu and her father to worry, so she didn't tell them about Tang Yin staying in Snowy Valley. Now that they were home, however, Meng Yao didn't need to hide it anymore. She told Uncle Fu everything that had happened. "So you're saying that Lin, he hasn't woken up yet? And Tang Yun is staying in Snowy Valley and can't come back?" Faubert looked at Meng Yao and Yushu, stunned. He didn't know what to say. Originally, Faubert had placed all his hopes on Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi's medical skills were superb. As long as Peng Zhan's life was saved, Lin Yi should be able to cure him. He could see that Lin Yi was very good at healing his meridians and Wu Qintian and General Wei Wu's wounds. Plus, Lin Yi's social connections were very deep. He maintained good relationships with all the noble houses. Although Peng Zhan Industries was gone, with Lin Yi's connections, it wasn't impossible for them to make a comeback. So, Faubert was very happy when he heard that Meng Yao was back, but now, not yet, but the people in Snowy Valley said that he should wake up in about a month. Meng Yao said, "Right, Faubert, what's with the things in this house? I think they were all moved from Shu's house." "A month? There's still a month." Faubert frowned deeply. Facing the huge expenses every day, Faubert was already struggling to make ends meet. Lin, he still needed a month to wake up, and when he woke up, he might not even be able to recover his strength. Could Peng Zhan hold on until then? Chapter 1815. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if he had the money to pay for the medical bills, but if he didn't, then Peng Zhan could only wait for death at home. "Faubert, what's wrong?" Meng Yao noticed Faubert's weird behavior. "I was talking about the things in this house." "Ah, you're talking about things." Faubert finally understood Meng Yao's question, but he sighed deeply. "Yao Yao, actually, something big happened at home." "Something big?" Meng Yao paused. "What happened?" "Mr. Chu, his investment failed, and he killed himself." Faubert knew what kind of blow this news would bring to Meng Yao, but he couldn't hide it from her. "What?" Meng Yao stood up abruptly, looking at Faubert in disbelief. "Faubert, what did you say? Dad killed himself?" Mr. Chu's investment failed, and he committed suicide by crashing his car. Although he didn't die on the spot, he's still in the hospital's intensive care unit. He's still in critical condition. Uncle Fu nodded and said in a heavy voice, "I wanted to tell you about this earlier, but I was afraid you'd worry and get distracted while driving, so I waited for you to come back." "I'm sorry, Miss Chu." "Faubert, don't say that." Meng Yao was devastated, but she knew that Faubert was thinking for her sake. After going through Lin Yi's deviation and Tang Yin staying in Snowy Valley, Meng Yao was a lot stronger and more mature than before. She was worried about her father's safety, but she endured the pain and asked, "Faubert, what happened? How did Dad lose his investment?" "I'll have to start from the deal with House and," Faubert said as he told Meng Yao about Peng Zhan and in Ming Yue's deal. He said helplessly, "I tried to persuade Mr. Chu to stop while he was ahead, but it was like he was possessed. He insisted on mortgaging his property and shares, and he lost everything in the end. I'm really sorry, Miss Chu. Faubert, it's not your fault." Meng Yao's tears gushed out when she heard that her father crashed into a speeding car when he had nothing, but she didn't blame Faubert. She knew that Faubert never interfered with her father's investments. Even if Faubert tried to persuade her father this time, her father wouldn't listen to Faubert completely. "Miss Chu, Mr. Chu isn't out of danger yet, but there's still hope. My condolences. As long as there's life, there's hope. When Lily wakes up, we might have a chance to make a comeback." Faubert's eyes flashed coldly. "We'll get back what we've lost. As long as there's hope. Meng Yao nodded, feeling a little better. But from the second half of Falbert's words, she could sense something else. Falbert, are you suspecting something? Miss Chu, I don't have any proof, but Howson. Falbert's eyes flashed with anger again. I'm afraid that Howson didn't have any good intentions from the start. It's just that I can't find anything wrong with them. Are there any problems with the trading records? Meng Yao asked. There's nothing wrong with them, but the trading was done overseas, and the records were only provided by Mingwei. I can't find the original records. Falbert shook his head. Don't tell me. It's possible to lose everything and lose everything. Meng Yao was a little surprised. She didn't know much about futures, but she had seen stocks before. Even if a stock lost money, it shouldn't be a loss, right? They're using margin trading, so 100% loss is normal. There's no problem with that. Falbert said, but I'm afraid that these trading records are fake, made up by someone. It seemed that no one was an idiot. Howson may have done it flawlessly, but Falbert still had his suspicions. Howson didn't care, though. So what if they had suspicions? It was a foregone conclusion. Howson. Meng Yao wiped away her tears, remembering the name. Miss Chu, this villa doesn't belong to us anymore. It belongs to Howson, but Jiang Wen said that he's your friend, and he didn't want you to be homeless. That's why he fought with his father to keep the villa. Falbert said, I don't know if Jiang Wen's part of it, or if he's being sincere, but it's best if you don't interact with them in the future. I know. Meng Yao didn't expect that the villa wasn't hers anymore. She looked at the familiar scene and felt a little sad. So Shu stuff was moved here? Yes. Uncle Fu nodded and said, by the way, Miss Chu, Falbert, why are you still calling me Miss Chu? How am I a rich young miss? Just call me Yao Yao. Meng Yao was a little sad after what she'd gone through. All right, Yao Yao, I don't have much money left, and Mr. Chu's medical fees haven't been settled yet. Can you take out the pocket money in your card and give it to me first? Uncle Fu didn't bother with the details and asked directly. Of course, Meng Yao said naturally, but her face changed slightly. Wait, I don't have any money left. You don't have any? Falbert paused. We were robbed on the way. With that, Meng Yao told Lin Yi about the dangerous scene on the road, and how Shu was able to turn the situation around with her quick wits. Man, money is just a worldly thing. It's fine if it's gone, but right now we don't have any money. Falbert, naturally, wouldn't blame Meng Yao. In that situation, he would have given her 5 or 10 million, let alone 1 million. Maybe I should ask my brother how much money my family can take out? It's hard to say if it's a lot, but a few 100,000 should be possible. Yushu's family wasn't rich. Her parents were researchers, and her grandfather was retired. Her brother's salary wasn't that high either. Other than his own living expenses, there wasn't much they could save. No need to ask. House Chun and House Song's money was probably all lent to Fatty Lai. Falbert shook his head. He knew about the bankruptcy of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. If Fatty Lai still had money, Falbert would have gone to borrow it already. He wasn't familiar with him, but with his relationship with Lin Yi, it wouldn't be a problem. The problem was that Fatty Lai couldn't even protect himself now. Chapter 1816. Meng Yao and Yushu knew about Fatty Lai's situation as well, and they all fell silent at the thought of his situation. Holy Church, forget it. I'll think of something. You guys just came back. You should rest first. Falbert stood up, but how was he supposed to think of anything? He was just trying to comfort himself. Back when the sect was annexed, his master, wife, and daughter were nowhere to be found. From then on, Falbert changed his name to Li Fu and followed Pingzhan. Other than Pingzhan, what other relationship did he have? I want to go to the hospital to see my dad. Meng Yao said. All right, let's go. Falbert nodded. After settling Linny down, Meng Yao brought Yushu and Falbert out of the villa quietly. Meng Yao wanted to drive, but Falbert stopped her. Yao Yao, don't drive. Gas costs money. Save it for when you need it. Okay. Meng Yao let go of the car, door apologetically and walked out of the villa with Faubert, Songshan's first people's hospital. A delicate and pretty girl with a somewhat haggard expression was quietly standing outside a thick glass wall. She was looking inside the glass wall at a man lying on a white hospital bed. His body was full of tubes and wires, but his expression was very serene. Beside her was a middle-aged man and a voluptuous girl who was shorter than her by a head. Yao, I just asked the doctor if there are no accidents. Mr. Chu should be able to pass tonight. Faubert said, You don't have to worry too much. That's good. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. Faubert, thank you for taking care of him these days. What are you talking about? Mr. Chu and I are old friends. Faubert waved his hand. Let's leave. There's no point in standing here. And Meng Yao said as she looked at her father, her heart aching a little as she looked at him. Why at this time? Why did things happen to the people closest to him? Her father, her best friend Tang Yun, and her male friend Lin Yi. It was as if they had all agreed to meet. Something happened at the same time. Misfortune never comes alone. Meng Yao had experienced it firsthand. Fortunately, everything was developing in a good direction. As long as his father could survive for a month and wait for Lin Yi to wake up, everything would be fine. Yes, everything will be fine. Meng Yao and Yushu went back to the villa, and Faubert went out to discuss the medical fees. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, didn't calm down at all. When they went home to check on Lin Yi, they suddenly remembered that Lin Yi needed money to buy medicine as well. The prescription Elder Zhang gave them didn't lack rare ingredients, and although they could be bought in a pharmacy, the price wasn't cheap at all. This wasn't a problem for the old Meng Yao, as she could just swipe her credit card, but now, her father's medical fees, Lin Yi's medical fees. What should she do with this money? Did she have to go back to the Snow Valley and ask Tang Yin for it? Shu looked at Meng Yao, who was holding the prescription with a stiff face. Naturally, she thought of this as well. Yao, sis, do you have no money to buy medicine for Shield Bro? Yes. Meng Yao nodded. She sat on the side of Lin Yi's bed in pain. She looked at Lin Yi's skinny face and sighed. I don't know how to contact Xiao. Maybe I can borrow some money from her. Yushu thought of her best partner. Sigh. At this moment, Meng Yao suddenly realized that she was the most useless one here. Without the Miss Halo, she couldn't even be compared to Tang Yun. Before, when Tang Yun was feeling inferior, she tried to comfort her. Now that she thought about it, it was a joke. At least Tang Yun knew how to make barbecue. But what about her? She didn't even know how to make money. Besides, Tang Yun had made the biggest sacrifice for Lin Yi. It could be said that Tang Yun's sacrifice was unparalleled. What about her? She thought about herself. She was still acting arrogant in front of her. Just thinking about it made her blush. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Meng Yao and Yushu were confused. Who would come at this time? Faubert just left. It shouldn't be Faubert coming back. But when Meng Yao arrived at the villa's entrance, she saw someone she didn't expect to see. It was Jiang Wen. Seeing him, Meng Yao's face darkened. Before, because of her father, although Meng Yao hated this person, she still pretended to be polite to him. But now it was time for them to completely fall out. Jiang Wen, what are you doing here? Are you here to see a joke? Meng Yao was expressionless. She looked at Jiang Wen coldly. She had no intention of opening the door. Yao, what are you talking about? Why would I want to see a joke? We were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Uncle Chu is also my elder. I'm also very sad that something like this has happened. Jiang Wen said painfully. I heard that you came back, so I came here to see you. You're spying on me? Meng Yao asked coldly. Ugh. Jiang Wen's face turned awkward. It's not that I'm spying on you, but the property of your villa belongs to House N's company now. This place hasn't been taken back yet, because I tried my best to get my father to fight for it in front of Uncle and Grandpa. But now that you're back, the management company will naturally call us. Then shouldn't I thank you? Meng Yao humphed lightly, as if she didn't care about Jiang Wen's words. Yao, I know that you might be dissatisfied with Housen's decision, but what I want to say is that Housen is also a victim in this matter. Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. You're a victim too? Acting pitiful? Meng Yao naturally didn't believe Jiang Wen. Yao, let me in. I'll tell you the details. I'm here to clarify things with you. It's not good for people to see me standing at the door like this. Jiang Wen said. Let you in. Ming Yao wanted to say, let you in. Are you dreaming? Why should I let you in? But then she remembered that this villa didn't belong to her anymore. Jiang Wen was the real owner, and she was living under someone else's roof. At that thought, Ming Yao sighed helplessly. She opened the door. Then come in. I like to see what you have to explain. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1817. Indeed, Jiang Wen was right. Peng Zhan was the one who asked for more investments, and Ming Wei was the one who tried to talk him out of it. Ming Yao was even more certain that Ming Wei didn't want to lend the money, telling Peng Zhan to stop. But it was her father's stubborn insistence that Ming Wei had no choice but to agree to Peng Zhan's request. After that, it was Peng Zhan's request to withdraw his investments, and Ming Wei had warned him about the risks involved, but Peng Zhan still insisted on withdrawing his investments. This made Ming Yao a little sad. Thinking about how her father was doing this for her, she couldn't hold back her tears. These recordings were enough to prove House N's innocence, and it was only now that Ming Yao believed that it was an accident. After all, she couldn't really say anything in front of evidence like this. Even if House N really did play some tricks, it was Peng Zhan's own fault. She tried to talk him out of it so many times, but he still wouldn't listen. Who could he blame for losing the money? Yao, this time, do you understand our family's pain? Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. Actually, we didn't get anything out of this at all. We basically used this money to buy these shares and properties. Can you send me the recordings of these phone calls? Ming Yao took a deep breath. Faubert didn't know about this, and Howson didn't explain much to Faubert. St. Hall as far as Jiang Wen was concerned, he had to explain it to Ming Yao personally for this to work. He had other things to do, after all, and this was just a prelude to get close to Ming Yao. Of course, Jiang Wen nodded. But here's a video of the signing. You can have a look. With that, Jiang Wen opened the video of Peng Zhan and Ming Wei signing the contract. Of course, the video was edited, and there were some things Ming Yao shouldn't have seen. Ming Yao looked at her father's happy face after getting the money, and she knew that her father had done this out of his own volition. This meant that Howson really didn't have much to do with it. Of course, Ming Yao had forgotten about the hypnotist as well. But who would have thought that there was a hypnotist involved in this? Moreover, even an ordinary hypnotist would find it hard to do such a flawless job. Of course, a hypnotist from the Firewolf gang was a different story. The Firewolves were all experts in the study of the human body's potential and limits. Hypnosis was also a way to stimulate the human body's potential. If Ming Yao had been thinking from a normal perspective, she wouldn't have suspected a hypnotist at all. All right, I believe you. This matter has nothing to do with you. Ming Yao was a straightforward person, and she had no reason to suspect House and in front of all this evidence. It's fine. If people don't know the truth, they'll really suspect us. Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. I'll send it to your phone now. Ming Yao nodded. I understand. It's not your fault. It's Daddy's fault for being too impatient. Is there anything else you need? Here's 100,000. I heard that Uncle Chu really needs money right now, so I took out half of my private stash and gave it to you, Jiang Wen said as he took out the 100,000. He was a little apologetic. Because of what happened before, my father's position in the company has been temporarily revoked, so my pocket money has been reduced a lot. This is all I can give you. Ming Yao really wanted the money, but she didn't want to owe Jiang Wen anything. She wouldn't have cared about 100,000 in the past, but now she really wanted it. She didn't want to owe Jiang Wen a favor just because of 100,000, and that was something she didn't want to owe Jiang Wen a favor. Oh, give it to me. Yushu took the money from Jiang Wen's hand and said, I'll take it. It was Jiang Wen's turn to feel helpless. He took out the 100,000 to get on Ming Yao's good side. He didn't want Ming Yao to feel like he owed her, but at the very least, he wanted her to think that he was treating her well. But it was different now that Yushu took the money. He didn't need Yushu to owe him anything. He just wanted to get as far away from this bad girl as possible. But since Yushu had taken the money, he couldn't take it back. Not only would he lose face, but it would also make Meng Yao feel like he wasn't giving her the money with sincerity. It wasn't worth it. And so, Jiang Wen said without hesitation, "It doesn't matter who I give it to. It's for Uncle Chu. It's a token of my sincerity." Thanks. Meng Yao felt a little better now that she didn't have to take the money herself. Right, Yao Yao, the amusement park belongs to us now. But Uncle is planning on developing the land around the amusement park. Are you interested in joining in? Jiang Wen finally revealed his main purpose for coming here. What do you mean? Meng Yao frowned. The amusement park belongs to your family now. What does it have to do with me? Uncle's planning on building a safari park near the amusement park. After all, it's surrounded by mountains and rivers. It's a beautiful environment, and Songshan lacks a big zoo. So Uncle's planning on training me and putting me in charge of this project. Jiang Wen said, Yao Yao, I'd like to invite you to join in the development. Me? What for? Meng Yao still didn't understand what Jiang Wen was planning. Yao Yao, actually, I feel really bad seeing Uncle Chu like this. These properties belong to us now, but I think it's just temporary. As long as I work hard, I'll definitely get them back for you. Jiang Wen said, Get them back for me? Meng Yao looked at Jiang Wen, surprised. Was there something wrong with this guy? Yeah, if I perform well, then I'm sure Grandpa will agree to it. But the prerequisite is that you have to be with me. If you marry me, then it'll be perfectly justifiable for me to help you get these properties back. After all, you're my wife, and these properties belong to House Chu. Even if Uncle objects, Grandpa will definitely agree. Jiang Wen said proudly. In the third generation, Grandpa likes me the most. Chapter 1818. In actuality, it was true that Olden liked Jiang Wen, but it was also because Jiang Wen was the most capable one, and his position in the Firewolves had been rising. Olden, on the other hand, was an outer disciple of the Firewolves. His dream back then was to enter the core of the Firewolves and become a core disciple. One had to know that core disciples of the Firewolves could become practitioners, and Jiang Wen, if he did a few more things, the Firewolves would probably give him foundation-building pills to help him train. Marry you. Meng Yao smiled. She finally understood what Jiang Wen's goal was. He wanted her to marry him, and as for developing an amusement park, it was just a way to build up their relationship. As long as their relationship was built up, everything else would be fine. Meng Yao smiled. She finally understood what Jiang Wen was trying to say. But Meng Yao didn't like Jiang Wen at all. Even when the temptation was right in front of her, Meng Yao didn't move. She didn't know why, but there was a belief in her heart. If Linny woke up, then everything would be fine. Even if she lost a lot, as long as Linny was there, then she could make a comeback. Yeah, you know that even if I'm loved by Grandpa, if you weren't my girlfriend, Grandpa wouldn't agree to me returning all these properties to you. Jiang Wen opened his hands and smiled bitterly. Yao Yao, you might think that I'm taking advantage of you, but this is the only way I can think of. Besides, I really like you. I'm sorry. I still need to go to school. I'm not interested in this theme park. Meng Yao shook her head, rejecting Jiang Wen's suggestion. Sigh. In any case, I'm just saying, you should think about it. After all, I don't want you to lose House Chu's properties. I heard that it was your grandpa's hard work. Jiang Wen said, Thank you, but I'm not thinking about marriage or work right now. I still need to go to college. Meng Yao said, All right, I won't disturb you then. Give me a call when you've thought it through. Jiang Wen said, Wait, you said you want to build a zoo? Yushu asked suddenly. Yes, Xiao Shu. You also help me to persuade Yao Yao. After all, we all want to help her. Jiang Wen nodded. Although he didn't like Shu, she was the closest person to Meng Yao. Meng Yao would listen to her if she tried to persuade her. Are you guys buying a lot of animals? Yushu asked. Of course. How can there be no animals in a zoo? Jiang Wen didn't know why Yushu was asking this, but he answered honestly. That's good. I have a lion here. I'll sell it to you. It doesn't have to be too expensive. Just 200,000 or 300,000 will do. Yushu demanded. Ah. Jiang Wen paused, not knowing what to say. It's better to make a cooked one than a raw one. We're already so familiar with each other, and Yao Yao needs money. You won't reject it, will you? Yushu asked. Ugh, I'll buy it, of course. 300,000, right? All right, I'll talk to Uncle about it. I'll definitely buy it. Jiang Wen was troubled. His cooperation with Meng Yao didn't work out, and he got a lion for nothing. Jiang Wen had heard that Yushu got a lion from Shao family's Go Huli, but he didn't think that he'd be the one to buy it. More importantly, the zoo was a project he came up with on a whim. The goal was to get in touch with Meng Yao. If Meng Yao didn't participate, why would he even bother with the zoo? He didn't have the time to do that. There were more profitable projects waiting for him. That's great. I'll get someone to send the lion to you later. Yushu said. Jiang Wen left Meng Yao's house, troubled. He felt helpless. Nothing good ever happened to Yushu. This girl always found trouble for him. What the hell? Meng Yao couldn't help but smile at Shu's actions, but she didn't stop her. One was willing to get hit, and the other was willing to suffer. With Shu here, other than Lin Yi, she'd take advantage of everyone else. Jiang Wen was asking for it. Shu, do you think that Dad's incident really has nothing to do with Jiang Wen? Meng Yao said helplessly as she looked at the evidence on her phone. Who knows? This guy might not even be telling the truth. Yushu doesn't have a good impression of Jiang Wen, but there's evidence. Meng Yao said, That's true, but we'll have to wait until Uncle Chu wakes up. Yushu said, Hidden House Yu Bing's letter had arrived. If it were any other disciple of the Ice Palace, they wouldn't be able to enjoy this kind of treatment. But Yu Bing could write a letter to his family once a month, and he could even receive letters from House Yu through the Ice Palace. The other outer sect disciples had to be in the sect for at least a year before they could enjoy the privilege of writing letters to their families. But Yu Bing had the care of the future sect master of the Ice Palace. Not only did he receive more elixirs than the other outer sect disciples, but he also had more privileges than the other outer sect disciples. But even so, no outer disciple dared to object. Who told him to be so close to the future sect master of the Ice Palace? This time, Yu Xiaochun's letter gave Yu Bing quite a shock. Xiaochun questioned Yu Bing in the letter. Why did he hide the fact that Lin Yi participated in the tomb robbery and that he got the qi gathering pill? Yu Bing, on the other hand, thought that his father knew everything when he saw the letter. He quickly explained everything, admitting that he knew that Lin Yi had participated in the tomb raiding and that he had a qi gathering pill with him. But he couldn't be loyal at the same time, and he couldn't betray his friend, so he hid it from his father. In truth, Yu Bing's explanation was because he thought that his father knew everything. He didn't know that it was all a coincidence. Yu Xiaochun didn't know the truth of the matter and only heard Yu Huoxing's side of the story. That was why he wrote such a vague letter to Yu Bing. He didn't want to expose himself, so naturally he didn't say too much. He only asked a few general questions, but Yu Bing had a guilty conscience, and so this was the result. If Yu Huoxing knew about this misunderstanding, he'd probably be laughing so hard that he wouldn't be able to close his mouth. He just randomly made up a lie to frame Lin Yi, and now Yu Bing was telling the truth. Even the heavens were helping him. Chapter 18-19. Looking at the letter in his hands, Xiaochun's face darkened even more. After confirming Yu Huoxing's words, Xiaochun immediately went to the mountain where the old Yu was in isolation. Under Yu Yi's lead, Xiaochun once again met the old Yu. St. Hall, father. Yu Bing's reply is here. Xiaochun didn't waste time with pleasantries and went straight to the point. Oh, what did Yu Bing say in the letter? Old ancestor Yu opened his eyes and asked. Yu Huoxing didn't lie. Lin Yi did participate in the tomb raiding, and he did have the qi gathering pill, Xiaochun said as he handed the letter to the old Yu. The old Yu took the letter and read it quietly, as if he was very serious. Xiaochun didn't want to disturb him, so he stood to the side and waited for the old Yu to finish reading. It was obvious that the old Yu liked Yu Bing a lot, otherwise he wouldn't be reading the letter so seriously. After a while, the old Yu put down the letter in his hands and sighed. I wanted the other hidden houses to break the rules and send out their Earth class, but I didn't think that the first to make a move would be us, House you. Father, you're preparing to make a move on Lenny? Xiaochen was happy as he asked. St. Hall, if his father supported him, then they might be able to get the Qi gathering pill back, and he would have a high chance of breaking through to Sky Class. Of course, he didn't think that he had already eaten the Qi gathering pill, as it would only have the greatest effect when an Earth Class late phase peak was breaking through to Sky Class. Taking it before was a waste of a heavenly gift. If you become a Sky Class as well, then House you will have nothing to worry about for the next 100 years. The old you said, this is your hope, so of course I'll get my all. Since we've confirmed that it was Lin Yi who took the pill, then let's fulfill Yu Huoxing's wish, kill Lin Yi and get the pill back. Kill Lin Yi? Xiaochen raised an eyebrow. Yu Bing. Sooner or later, he will understand that the interests of the family are greater than anything else. Elder Yu said, this time, we'll let Yu Lu go. Although it said that Lin Yi went crazy, we don't know if it's true or not. Yu Lu is an Earth Class mid-phase peak. Even if Lin Yi is faking it, he can still beat Lin Yi. Yes. Xiaochen nodded. Then I'll go arrange it right away. And go talk to Yu Huoxing. You know what to say, right? Old ancestor, you said. Of course. Yu Xiaochan said. I'll make sure that Yu Huoxing remembers this favor after helping House you get their revenge. Count this as repayment for House Zhao stealing his Qi gathering pill. All right, off you go. Old ancestor, you wave his hand. After Xiaochen left the old ancestor's training grounds, he sent for Yu Huoxing. Greetings, head Yu. Yu Huoxing said respectfully. He didn't know why Yu Xiaochen was looking for him all of a sudden, but he wasn't afraid. Ever since he was told to pretend that the Zhaos had taken the Qi gathering pill, he knew that everything would be fine. No one would pursue this matter anymore. Even if someone did pursue this matter, Yu Huoxing would be able to push all the blame away. Huoxing, Yu Bing has sent a letter confirming your story. Lin Yi did participate in the grave robbing, and he was the one who stole the Qi gathering pill. Xiaochen said. Yu Huoxing paused. Had Yu Bing lost his mind? What the hell did Lin Yi participate in the grave robbing? Plus, the Qi gathering pill wasn't stolen by Lin Yi. He was the one who gave it to House Zhao. Why did Yu Bing admit to his story? Before, Yu Huoxing was relieved, but he was afraid that something would happen to Yu Bing. If Yu Bing had clarified things, then House Yu would definitely believe Yu Bing's words, not Yu Huoxing's. So Yu Huoxing was hoping that Yu Bing wouldn't be able to write letters in the Ice Palace, but he didn't think that Yu Bing would actually reply to him. What was even more unexpected was that Yu Bing actually confirmed his story. Was Yu Bing out of his mind? But despite his doubts, Yu Huoxing was still very happy. No matter what reason Yu Bing had, confirming this was beneficial to him. After a moment of shock, Yu Huoxing quickly said, that's how it is. That Lin Yi is extremely despicable. Not only did he destroy our common house Yu, he even stole the Qi gathering pill that belonged to you, head Yu. What a heinous crime. That's right. This Lin Yi is indeed despicable. So after my father and I talked about it many times, he finally agreed to send people to avenge your common house Yu. Xiaochen said, knowing how to buy people's hearts. Thank you, head Yu and elder Yu. Yu Huoxing's heart was filled with gratitude. The common house Yu basically only existed in name now. Yu Huoxing was filled with hatred, but after hearing that Lin Yi had become an Earth Class, he didn't have the courage to take revenge anymore. If the hidden house Yu didn't help, then unless he became a higher class master, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin Yi at all. Plus, he was someone who was especially afraid of death. Before he completely suppressed Lin Yi's strength, he wouldn't do anything rash. You're welcome. This is what we should be doing. The common house Yu may not have a successor, but you could support a few other relatives. I heard that Yu Haitian isn't bad. Let him and Yu Kuan take care of House Yu together. Xiaochen said, but House Yu will just be doing business from now on. Don't participate in training anymore. Yes. Yu Huoxing sighed heavily. If the common house Yu stopped training, then what difference was there between them and normal businesses? This meant that the common house Yu would be completely marginalized from now on. they wouldn't have the glory they had before. But this was the best solution. At least the hidden house, you would still support House You. Otherwise, it was hard to say if House You could survive. Without a practitioner, any house with a practitioner could step on them. This time, I'm going to let you Lu go find Lin E for revenge. Is there anything else you want to say? Xiaochen asked. Nothing. It's all up to you, head you. Yu Huixing wanted to say that he wanted to take revenge himself, to kill Lin E with his own hands. But in the end, he didn't have the courage to say it because he was afraid of dying. He was afraid that Lin E was faking it. Even if Yu Lu, an Earth-class mid-phase peak, went with him, he was afraid that Yu Lu wouldn't be able to protect him. And so, Yu Huixing gave up when it came down to it. Chapter 1820. Xiaochen naturally didn't say anything. He told Yu Huixing to leave and went to find Yu Lu. Yu Lu, I'll give you a mission this time. Yes, Househead Yu, please instruct me. Yu Lu was a direct descendant of House Yu, and he was extremely loyal to House Yu. He was a brainwashed loyalty. Whatever Xiaochen told him to do, he'd do it. Heart, go to Songshan and help me get rid of someone, then get the qi-gathering pill back from him. Xiaochen said. Yes. Yu Lu didn't even think about it. Please tell me. Househead. This person's name is Lin E. I'm sure you've heard of him. Here's his information and address. When you get there, just deal with him directly. As for the people around him, Xiaochen paused before continuing seriously. Don't touch the people around him, especially the two girls with him. Don't hurt them. Every debt has its debtor, and we, House You, can't be too domineering. We just need to find trouble with Lin E. I understand. Yu Lu nodded. In actuality, Xiaochen didn't need to explain so much. There was no doubt about Yu Lu's loyalty. Whatever Xiaochen said, he'd do it, unlike Yu Huixing, who still had some ulterior motives. Holy Hall, all right, you can go now, Xiaochen said to Yu Lu after giving his orders. Yu Lu, on the other hand, disappeared in a flash. An Earth-class mid-phase peak was extremely fast. Later that night, Yu Qian and Ling Shan came to visit Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Lin Yi. Yu Qian got the news from Yu Shu, so he came to the villa. As for the news of Lin Yi's deviation, he got it from another source. Meng Yao and Yu Shu weren't as hostile towards Ling Shan as they were before. They knew the results of the Noble House meeting, and Ling Shan was now on Lin Yi's side. While the vixen liked Lin Yi, she was still a mystic late-phase peak. While Lin Yi was unconscious, she could be a helper, protecting Lin Yi. Brother Fox Song. Yu Shu opened the door. Shu, don't say that, call her Ling Shan's sis. Yu Qian scolded. Still not Ling Shan's sis. She wants to be Shield Bro's wife. I'm just a small wife, but she's at least 6 or 7. You should call me Shu sis. Yu Shu said. Art, Ling Shan, don't mind her. Shu's just like that. Yu Tian didn't know if he should be laughing or crying at Shu's behavior. It's fine. I'll follow the rules when I come in. Ling Shan looked at Yu Shu and said faintly, but I don't think Lin Yi has ever acknowledged you as a small wife, right? What's wrong with calling you Shu sis when he does? Yu Tian smiled bitterly at Ling Shan's words. He didn't expect Ling Shan to be so sharp with her words. All right, Ling Shan, Shu, stop arguing. Boss Lin, he hasn't woken up yet. Who's going to be the small wife? Yu Qian said. Yeah, Shu, stop arguing. Yin Yin has already entrusted Lin Yi to us. What's there to argue about? Meng Yao was talking about Shu, but she was also telling Ling Shan about their relationship with Lin Yi. Ling Shan smiled and didn't say anything. Bro, do you want to see Shield Bro? Yu Shu asked. That's second. I'm here to remind you guys not to stay in the villa. You guys should move out and find a more secluded place to stay. Yu Tian said, according to our experience, if the news of Boss going crazy gets out, his enemies might come for revenge. It's too dangerous for the two of you to stay here alone. Meng Yao couldn't help but gasp. She had forgotten about this before, and now that Yu Tian reminded her, she suddenly remembered the time when Lin Yi was injured and fainted, and the noble houses came to him at the same time. She still had lingering fear when she thought about the situation at that time. Lin Yi had woken up at the critical moment, but what about now? It was impossible for Lin Yi to wake up now, and if more enemies came to their door, there was only one way. According to the information I received, at least the hidden house pie behind Xiao family and the hidden house you behind house you won't let this go easily, so you guys better leave here as soon as possible. If these two houses send masters, Yu Tian bro, and I won't be able to fight them even if we work together. Ling Shan said. Thanks for the reminder. We'll pack up now. Meng Yao nodded decisively after listening. She didn't have the slightest bit of nostalgia for this huge villa. Since it wasn't hers anymore, what was the point of living here? When Lin Yi woke up, she could buy a bigger villa. Meng Yao had always been confident in Lin Yi, but she didn't know where this confidence came from. Was it just because of Lin Yi's tall figure during the bank robbery? We'll help you. We'll only pack the important things, the things that are meaningful to you guys. Leave the other furniture and appliances here, Yu Qian said. Okay. Meng Yao nodded and started packing with Yu Shu, Yu Qian, and Ling Shan. An hour later, Meng Yao and Yu Shu were panting as they tossed a couple of bags onto the car in the yard. These were all the useful stuff they'd packed, including a change of clothes and underwear, and a laptop with some photos and other important documents on it. The other computers had all been erased from the computer. Lin, he didn't have many things. Other than a few tattered clothes in his room, there were the clothes Meng Yao bought for him. Meng Yao packed these clothes together with some unknown things in Lin Yi's drawer. Finally done, Meng Yao breathed out in relief. She looked at the things that couldn't be taken away and shook her head. Goodbye, villa. From the moment she stepped out of the villa, she might never come back again. But just when Meng Yao and Yu Shu put Lin Yi in the car and were about to leave, something unexpected happened. An uninvited guest came to the villa's doorstep, and even with Yu Qian and Ling Shan's strength, they couldn't tell how this person got here. It was as if he just appeared out of thin air, without any warning. Chapter 1821. Stalling for time. Who's Lin Yi? The person asked directly. Get him out here. Who are you? What are you doing here? Yu Qian was shocked as he barked at the person. This person gave him a sense of danger, and his instincts told him that this person was very strong. Ling Shan was shocked as well. She and Yu Qian had guessed that after the news of Lin Yi's deviation, someone would come looking for trouble with Lin Yi, but she didn't think that someone would come so soon. She wasn't sure of the person's identity, but it looked like he was definitely here to cause trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for Lin Yi's whereabouts right away. I'm Yu Lu, under orders from the head of the hidden house Yu, to find Lin Yi and avenge the common house Yu. I don't want to kill innocent people. Get Lin Yi out here. With Yu Lu's status and strength, naturally, he wouldn't hide who he was. He wasn't afraid that someone close to Lin Yi would go to the hidden house Yu for revenge. In the hidden house Yu, there were 2 sky-class masters overseeing the place. If he dared to go there for revenge, he would be courting death. Ling Shan and Yu Tian looked at each other, understanding what was going on. It was the hidden house Yu after all. They didn't expect them to come this fast. Lin Yi's deviation, and he hasn't come back. Don't you know? Ling Shan said. Chi deviation? Yu Lu said coldly. Maybe it's true, but he hasn't come back. I don't believe it. Who's in the car? Yu Lu was a very loyal person trained by House Yu, but that didn't mean he was an idiot. On the contrary, Yu Lu's training had trained him to be very meticulous. He could tell at first glance that these people were moving. As for why they were moving, it was obvious. They probably knew that their enemies would come looking for trouble, and so they wanted to leave first. Yu Lu locked his eyes on the car in the yard. Ling Shan and Yu Tian looked at each other and yelled, Yao Yao, Shu run. We'll handle this. With that, Ling Shan and Yu Tian charged at Yu Lu, one on the left and one on the right. Meng Yao and Yu Shu were very nervous in the car, not expecting something like this to happen right before they left. Someone came looking for trouble, and they didn't know what to do. They were afraid that this person would do something to Lin Yi, but Yu Tian and Ling Shan yelled. Meng Yao subconsciously started the car, stepped on the gas, and the car shot out of the villa like an arrow, speeding away. Yu Lu's eyes darkened. He He didn't think that two late-phase peak Mystic Juniors would dare to attack him first. He could have easily dealt with Ling Shan and Yu Qian, but Yu Lu hesitated as he remembered Yu Xiaoqin's orders before he left to target Lin Yi and not hurt the innocent. Although Yu Xiaoqin was talking about the two girls beside Lin Yi, Yu Lu didn't know if he was talking about these two as well. He didn't know why Xiaoqin wanted him to target Lin Yi, but he didn't question it. He carried out, and because of that, he hesitated, not knowing how to deal with Ling Shan and Yu Qian. And it was this moment of hesitation that gave Meng Yao the chance to drive away. Otherwise, with Yu Lu's skills, it would be a piece of cake for him to stop Meng Yao and Yu Shu. Move, or I won't go easy on you, Yu Lu warned faintly. Meng Yao and Yu Shu had left, but Yu Lu was confident that he could catch up to them in a short amount of time. After all, there were only a few roads in the villa area, and with his speed, he would be able to find them. In order to make these two retreat, Yu Lu channeled his practitioner's arts as well, and in an instant his Earth-class mid-phase peak was on full display. His chi pressed down on Ling Shan and Yu Qian. Ling Shan and Yu Qian's faces changed. They knew their opponent's strength now. It was an Earth-class mid-phase peak. If they were facing someone who just entered Earth-class early phase, Ling Shan and Yu Qian would have a chance if they worked together, but this was an Earth-class mid-phase peak. They had no chance at all. They weren't Lin Yi, and they didn't have the ability to fight someone stronger than them. Facing someone this much stronger than them, there was only one possibility: defeat. I'm a police. You're trespassing on private property. Come back with me for investigation, Ling Shan said. Rain 6 paused. He thought that these two would be suppressed by his aura and retreat, or maybe they'd come at him without a care for their lives. But he didn't think that Ling Shan would say something like this. Trespassing? Yu Lu scratched his head, but didn't do anything. He explained, I'm from a hidden house. I understand. I'll notify the investigation department, Ling Shan said. Yu Lu was about to say that he was from a hidden house, and that he was bound by the association, but when he saw the cunning look in Ling Shan's eyes, he understood immediately. This person was trying to stall for time, giving the other side a chance to escape. With that thought, Yu Lu didn't bother with Ling Shan anymore. He turned around, wanting to chase after Yu Shu and Meng Yao. Ling Shan and Yu Qian understood immediately that Yu Lu understood. Ling Shan's words did stall for time, but they couldn't guarantee that Yu Shu and Meng Yao wouldn't be able to escape. They stood in front of Yu Lu, not letting him leave. Move, or I won't go easy on you, Yu Lu said coldly. Two mystic late-phase peak. Are you guys tired of living? At this point, Yu Lu had guessed that these two were from noble houses as well. He didn't know which noble house they were from, but they were definitely with Lin Yi. Yu Lu was raging inwardly. These two mystic juniors were messing up his plans, and he wanted to kill them immediately. But, remembering what Xiaoqin had told him, he didn't do it. After all, he didn't understand what Xiaoqin meant. Xiaoqin's words were very vague, and Yu Lu didn't know if Xiaoqin only wanted the two girls with Lin Yi to be harmed, or did he want everyone else to be harmed. After all, Xiaoqin had added that House Yu had a debtor, and he couldn't be too domineering. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1822. Us two juniors are untalented. We'd like to experience your strength. Yu Qian forced himself to speak to Yu Lu. Yu Lu frowned. He didn't expect these two to be so persistent. A wave of frustration rose in his heart as he pushed his palms out, one on the left and one on the right. It seemed like he was pushing them out randomly, hitting Ling Shan and Yu Qian on the left and right. An Earth-class mid-phase peak and a mystic late-phase peak were worlds apart. They couldn't be compared at all, especially with Yu Lu's skills. He could kill Yu Qian and Ling Shan with ease. But Yu Xiaoqin's warning made Yu Lu cautious. He used his skills. He didn't use his full strength, only sending Ling Shan and Yu Qian flying. They wouldn't be heavily injured, but some light injuries were unavoidable. Ling Shan and Yu Qian's bodies flew out, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them felt sorrow. They couldn't even take a single hit from Yulu. They didn't even see how Yulu did it, and they were already flying out. This meant that the difference in strength between the two was just too huge. Yuqian and Lingshan's thoughts of risking their lives was a joke. If Yulu wanted to kill them, they'd be dead already. But be it Yuqian or Lingshan, they didn't know why Yulu would go easy on them. Looking at how aggressive he was when he came for Lin Yi, he didn't look like a merciful person at all, did he? But this was a question that would never be answered. After sending Lingshan and Yuqian flying, Yulu disappeared into the night, chasing after Yushu and Meng Yao. At this moment, Meng Yao's jeep was parked quietly under an overpass. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was carrying a huge pile of bags, waiting quietly under an overpass. Yushu was carrying Lin Yi on her back. The two of them ran with all their might in the dark night. The two knew that Yulu would definitely chase after them, so Meng Yao abandoned the car. They changed to walking, although it was harder. But at least they wouldn't expose themselves easily. Phew! Meng Yao was already out of breath. She didn't know where the energy came from, but she had 2 bags in her hands. He did not feel tired at all. Yushu, on the other hand, ran as fast as she could with Lin Yi on her back. In a dangerous situation, a person's potential was limitless. However, the potential of these 2 people was obviously stronger than that of a normal person. Sky Thunder Pig and General Weiwu, on the other hand, each carried more than 3 bags, but they ran very fast as well. This bit of weight seemed to be nothing to them. It was just that there was a limit to how much space they could carry on their bodies. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem to hand over the 2 bags in Meng Yao's hands and choose Lin Yi. Yao Yao, how much longer do we have to run? I'm running out of energy. Yushu and Lin Yi had been running ever since they got off the overpass, and they'd already run 1,000 meters. Find a secluded place, at least one of those back alleys. Meng Yao said, your shield bro is dead meat if he gets caught. Oh, then Shu's full of energy again. Yushu gritted her teeth. Meng Yao was a little speechless. This Shu, the moment she mentioned that Lin Yi was in danger, she'd go all out in her little universe. In front of them was an old building district. This was one of the earliest buildings in Songshan, but it was also the most dilapidated one. The buildings here were all decades old, and most of them were 3-story red brick houses. Because of the problems with the planning, they didn't consider things like roads, so there were only alleys between the buildings, and the alleys were all enclosed by the residents on the first floor, turning it into their own yard. Dirty, messy, and broken. This was Meng Yao and Yushu's first impression. If it weren't for this escape, they wouldn't have come to a place like this no matter what. Perhaps they wouldn't come here for the rest of their lives, but Meng Yao purposely chose this place today. First, there were more obstacles here. The boxes were narrow, and the front of the yard was filled with junk. It was easy to find a hiding spot. Second, cars couldn't enter this place, and the two left in their car. If Yulu didn't see them hiding in the parking lot under the overpass, he wouldn't have thought that they were in an alley like this. Let's rest for a bit, Meng Yao said to Yushu, who was panting heavily. She really couldn't walk anymore. Okay, Yushu might have gone all out, but she was exhausted as well. Naturally, she agreed with Meng Yao's suggestion. The two found a pile of junk in front of a house and hid behind it carefully. Yulu chased after them, walking on the rooftops and telephone poles. He could see the streets below, and, as an Earth-class mid-phase peak, it was a piece of cake for him. Yulu was furious. If it weren't for Yuqian and Lingshan, he would have caught up to Meng Yao and Yushu long ago. But now, he could only rely on his instincts to search the area. Finally, Yulu's eyes landed on the parking lot under the overpass. There weren't many cars in the parking lot at night, and if he looked carefully, he would be able to find Meng Yao's jeep easily. The next moment, Yulu appeared beside the jeep. He touched the car's hood, a cold smile on his face. He leaped up again, jumping onto the overpass. A driver who was passing by suddenly saw someone appear on the bridgehead. He almost got into an accident, thinking that he'd seen a ghost. Yulu was observing the surrounding terrain. Since Meng Yao and Yushu had abandoned the car and walked, Yulu was thinking, which path would he choose if he were in their shoes? Finally, Yulu's eyes landed on an area of old buildings not too far away from the overpass. He could see what was going on in the other streets and neighborhoods, but that area of old buildings was built in a complicated manner. The tallest one was a 3-story building, and there wasn't a single place where he could get a good view of the entire area. This was the place. Rain 6 set his sights on this area of old buildings. If there was someone following him, then Rain 6 would have chosen this area as well, since there were too many places to hide and adapt to the situation. A small alleyway was all it took to lose his pursuer. After making up his mind, Yulu walked quickly towards the old building area. Chapter 1823. Yao Yao. That Yulu won't come after us, will he? Yushu had a bad feeling about this, as if Yulu could come after them. I don't know. Meng Yao looked at the closed doors of the houses, thinking how great it would be if they could hide in one of the houses. But she didn't know them, and even if they told her to hide in one of the houses, Meng Yao wouldn't dare do it. After all, they weren't familiar with the place, and who knew if they had bad intentions in the distance? A series of footsteps could be heard. It was especially clear in the empty alleyway, and Meng Yao and Yushu's hearts jumped. At that moment, the hairs on the two's backs stood up. They were wondering if Yulu had followed them here. The footsteps were getting nearer and nearer, and Meng Yao and Yushu subconsciously shrunk back. They were hiding behind a pile of junk, but if someone were to pass by, they'd still notice their silhouettes. Just as the person was about to pass by, the sound of coughing could be heard. It was the sound of an old woman coughing. Clearly, it was also the sound of the person who had come. Cough, cough. The cough made Meng Yao and Yushu relax. Thank goodness it wasn't Yulu. Not long after, a short old lady pushed a cart and slowly walked over. However, the old lady walked very slowly. Her eyes seemed to be sizing up the ground as she walked. She was a scavenger, and her cart was filled with broken cardboard boxes, bottles, and scrap metal. She looked around to see if there were any discarded bottles. When she passed by Meng Yao and Yushu, she saw the two curled up behind a pile of junk. The old lady's eyes flashed when she saw the two girls hiding there. She didn't know what they were doing here, but she subconsciously looked at them a few more times. Then, a look of disbelief appeared in the old lady's eyes. Fairies, you're the fairies. The old lady stopped in her tracks and cried out to Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu listened to the old lady's words. They froze for a second, but in the next moment, they recognized the old lady. She was the old lady who picked up scraps at the back door of Tianyi Entertainment. She was humiliated by Zhan Ingjun, and Lin Yi transferred her disease to Zhan Ingjun. At that time, the old lady's chronic illness was suddenly cured. Naturally, she thought that Meng Yao and Yushu were fairies. After all, only fairies could do that, right? No matter how good a doctor was, he could only cure her illness. However, they could transfer their pain to the young man who bullied them. Only immortals could do this. With that, the old lady put down the car and was about to kneel down to greet Meng Yao and Yushu. Being able to meet a goddess once was already a blessing for her ancestors. One could imagine how excited the old lady was to be able to meet a fairy for the second time. Granny, we're not fairies. Meng Yao subconsciously stopped the old woman from kneeling down. After all, they couldn't accept the old woman's kowtow. You must be fairies. If you're not fairies, how can you cure this old lady's chronic illness? And how can you transfer the disease to that evil man? Did you transfer it to that evil person? Asked the granny. Meng Yao didn't know how Lin Yi did it, and so she couldn't explain it. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Yi had so many miraculous abilities, she would have been surprised if it was the first time she saw something like this. Two fairies. If you don't mind, you can come to my house. I want to donate all my savings over the years as incense money to you, said the old lady. You're not willing to accept this old lady's kowtow from me, but if you don't mind, you can come to my house. She was a grateful old woman, and she'd been scavenging for a living all these years. Her disability made it hard for her to move around, and the things she could scavenge every day were limited. But now that her legs were more agile, her income had increased greatly. She could now go to places she couldn't go before, and it was only natural that she was grateful to Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu looked at each other. The two weren't greedy for the old lady's incense money, but they were worried about finding a place to hide. Since the old lady invited them, and it was someone they knew, they weren't afraid of someone with ulterior motives. It was exactly what Meng Yao and Yushu wanted. "Sure, Granny, but we're not fairies. We'll tell you in detail when we get to your house." Meng Yao could see that the old lady was a kind person. She wouldn't pretend to be a fairy to trick her. Okay, that's great. The old lady couldn't stop smiling when she heard Meng Yao and Yushu's agreement. In fact, it didn't matter if Meng Yao and Yushu were fairies or not. The important thing was that the old lady had met her benefactors again. Being able to repay them was what made the old lady the happiest. Meng Yao lifted the bag, and Yushu carried Lin Yi on her back. The old lady paused when she saw this scene. "Fairies, let me help you carry this. How can I let you do manual labor?" "Granny, it's fine." But before Meng Yao could finish, the old lady took the bag from her hands easily and put on the cart. Lin Yi, who was on Yushu's back, was also carried by the old lady. The scene stunned Meng Yao and Yushu. They didn't expect this skinny old lady to be so strong. The old lady smiled when she saw the shock. "I used to carry a sack on the streets when my legs weren't as good as before. What heavy things haven't I carried before? Now that my legs are healed, this is nothing." Meng Yao and Yushu calmed down after hearing the old lady's words. They walked forward with the old lady. The old lady, on the other hand, saw Skybolt Pig and General Wei Wu on the ground. She blinked and rubbed her eyes. She was sure that Meng Yao and Yushu were fairies. In her entire life, she had never seen a pig that could walk on two legs and a dog that could carry things like this. If she wasn't a fairy, how could there be such a spiritual beast in the celestial world? Wasn't this something that only happened in the journey to the West? However, since she didn't want to admit it, the old granny didn't insist. Perhaps she was a fairy who had descended to the mortal world and wanted to keep it a secret. The old grandma's house wasn't far from here, and it was also on the first floor. The old grandma opened the door and let Yushu and Meng Yao in first, before closing the door behind them. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for me at Shidian. Your support is my greatest motivation. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.